clever pun. The Conversation.
Now, I'm a reasonable man who was reincarnated as a baby and then prematurely aged up to my teenage years due to bovine hormones. So, I sit here, tied up in this veal crate on a chimpanzee's farm in this alternate universe, not as a literal proponent of DK Vine's ludicrous tail-tucking theory, but it's clear to me that authorial intent makes Dixie every bit a monkey as her boyfriend.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I am Cameron Reigle.
And as I said on the topical mini episode of the show that was recorded right before we sat down to do this one, I wasn't expecting to be talking about Star Fox so much this week. So, very briefly, let me explain. This was actually an episode that we had earmarked for last year, 2025, for this specific game's 20th anniversary, before stupid Donkey Kong Bonanza got in the way and ruined everything. All of my meticulous plans out the window for the rest of the season. But then we learned, hey, Fox McCloud is going to be in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Okay, well, maybe the topic of Star Fox will suddenly be relevant again for the first time in years, and I can just slide this episode in and kind of the wind down of the hype of that movie. Great. All right. So let's schedule the recording for, I don't know, the first week of May. Maybe May 9th. That Saturday. That sounds good. I'm sure.
Piccolo Day.
I'm sure nothing will get in the way between then and now. And somehow, though, the topic of a Star Fox sequel that actually advances the storyline is somehow even more relevant than an arbitrary round anniversary or a brief gimmicky appearance in a kids movie could possibly be. So, of course, I had this all planned. I'm just cashing in on hot topical talking points at the moment. But no, if I had a nickel, Cameron, if I had a nickel for every time Namco took a property that was previously developed by Rare and covered by DK Vine as a result, and made a GameCube follow-up to it, I would have 15 cents. I would have 20 cents if I could get to the international currency exchange. But if I had a nickel for every time Namco took a property previously developed by Rare and made a GameCube game out of it that I actually like, nay, love, well, I would have one nickel then. And that nickel would be for Star Fox Assault, which we are finally covering in the spotlight format on this episode of the Kongversation. Before we get to it, think about supporting DK Vine on Patreon. If you like what we do here, if you like our coverage of things like Star Fox, which we sometimes talk about, although we won't really be talking about the new game all that much. We might do an episode about it when it comes out. I might not be able to resist, but generally speaking, we only talk about the 3 Star Fox games that follow the Dinosaur Planet lore. I call it the Dinosaur Planet trilogy, which is
I'd
just
say, we keep our eyes on the rest of Star Fox, but don't expect comprehensive coverage.
There you go. It's not going to be like we did for Donkey Kong Bonanza, where we just poured over every inch of the game, and in fact, are still doing it. I hit 285 hours last night in Donkey Kong Bonanza, Cameron. I can't stop. But yeah, we will probably be talking about the new game this summer, Stinky Ape Summer on the horizon. But of course, our main focus is the Donkey Kong universe, which, Star Fox is kind of in there. It's a long story. Go watch the video I made about it if you don't believe me. But anyway, you like what we do, think about supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/DKVine or DKVine.com patreon. We do live stream these episodes for our $5 and up patrons. We've got March Rose in there. We've got Freezer in there. As Jeff would say, we've got thousands and thousands of others. Now, people stroll in, and we'll try to say hello. We'll try to keep an eye on the chat as we go. But let's just get into it, because I feel like this is going to be a long one, Cameron. I really do. And not just because I know how you can get about Star Fox.
Yeah. I kind of knew how this was going to go, and that's before I kind of threw a monkey wrench held by a floating monkey hand into things. So I'm going to delay things further, give you a short little preamble. As Hyle said, we'd kind of been planning this episode for a while, and I was asked to be the guest host on it. And in spite of how...
You're the Star Fox person. Like,
right.
On the staff, everybody has their niche that they kind of fill. And Cameron is Star Fox and Dinosaur Planet. And, I was like, yeah, of course Cameron has got to be on the Star Fox Assault episode. Nothing could go wrong.
Yeah, I'm honored to be in that position. I don't know how I found myself in it, but in spite of being kind of the go-to Star Fox guest, I realized it had been years since the last time I played through Assault, and if this was going to be a spotlight episode, I wanted to have all of my ducks in a row. I said, I'm going to buckle down, and I am going to not only thoroughly refamiliarize myself with this game, but soak in every detail I could. I not only painstakingly did basically everything that you can do in that game single player. I've got medals on every single difficulty, including the gold ones without dying. Kept my teammates alive, all that stuff. And I also did a lot of research on its development, looked back on its pre-release material, because I knew from being around at the time in the lead up to this game and its immediate aftermath that the story of this game is kind of messy it happening.
Yeah, it's like, but in both the real world sense and in the game itself.
Yeah. So eventually I kind of realized I'm getting a little bit into the weeds on this. I should come to Hyle, and I proposed, hey, I've just kind of been doing a full immersion into this game. I have kind of so much I want to talk about. Can I pitch the idea that, for a change of pace, I direct the show notes for this episode? Because I was just so enthusiastic to get down to this. And you agreed to it, obviously, and I'm very grateful for that. You may come to regret it.
Well, yeah, usually the way the conversation is structured is I basically handle the bulk of the show notes research, and then I will, of course, share it with my co-host and say, hey, you can add anything you want, take a look over it. But generally speaking, all the pre-recording work is done by me in the days and sometimes weeks before we record these. And it was kind of weird to be hands off. It was kind of weird to seed ground. I sometimes do it when Jeff does his silly little games, his silly goose episodes as he calls them. But generally speaking, especially for a spotlight episode, I'm in there. I'm meticulously laying everything out. And so I was like, it would be true to the spirit of Star Fox Assault, because did Peppy not take a backseat to allow Krystal a spot on the roster? And so I am the old hare just sitting on the ship with my robot friend on this episode. And I'm fine with that, because I like change. I like shaking up the status quo, and Star Fox Assault certainly did that.
Right. So I had kind of a busy week, so even though I knew we'd scheduled this episode for Saturday, at the time I still had a decent amount of time to write the show notes, so few days out from today, I'm like, okay, time to buckle down, and I will, put form to everything that's been percolating in my head. And I was, like I said, I was really gung-ho to do this episode, but I was gung-ho to do a Star Fox episode on the Kongversation again, because I thought this was going to be a nice change of pace, because historically, when I've been brought on to do a Star Fox episode, it's been in a lull period for Star Fox, or the subject is kind of talking about, well, how would we do a Star Fox game that was aligned to our sensibilities?
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to do this episode because I was excited. No, I'm not going to get into the weeds. I'm not going to go on a rant about certain things I dislike in whatever contemporary entry is relevant at the time. This is going to be purely an examination about a existent DKU Star Fox game in isolation, and I will not have the shadow of temptation hanging over me to derail the conversation and talk about the current state of the franchise, what I do differently, any things that I lament not seeing or would like to see, and just no derailing back and forth of about to discuss that ends up just kind of talking at length about the controversial direction of a more contemporary entry.
Sure. No bad vibes.
So, damn it.
Yeah, I remember, because we kind of had a brief interaction the day of following this, and I kind of sussed out you did not want to be on the mini that we were going to have to inevitably do about the direct, and so I was like, well, at the very least, this might be a good palate cleanser. Talking about a game I know I love. I'm curious where you stand on it. I know you probably like a great deal about it, but I'm fascinated to get into it with you, what it is about Star Fox Assault, how we feel about it, especially compared to other entries of the series around it. But I thought, yeah, this might actually be the perfect time, even if it doesn't feel like it, here on May 6th.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of strong feelings about this game, and I feel like I have reevaluated them significantly after going back and giving this the due time it deserved. But I think I'm going to leave that as a carrot on the stick a little bit longer, because this is going to be a very long episode.
Cool.
But that said, this is my mission statement for this episode, in as much as I can commit to one. So I started prep for this episode before the direct announcing a new Star Fox game. So obviously it didn't factor into my original plan, and I'm kind of going to broach most of this episode as though that is still the case. While Star Fox Zero and the new Star Fox game for the Nintendo Switch 2 system may come up, and they will in some cases, because it may just be unavoidable. I may be stating a matter of fact that would be simply untrue if I didn't bring up Zero or the new Star Fox game, or really anything since Assault. But I'll be making a concentrated effort, do my best to focus squarely on Star Fox Assault in and of itself, and by extension the games before Star Fox Assault, because this is a direct follow-up to them, and try to avoid making direct comparisons to more recent games, whether they be derisive or positive.
Sure. And every time I say, boy, I really like when the Star Fox story advances. Boy, I really like when the status quo shakes up. I really like seeing cause and effect in this world. That's not meant to be a dig towards any more recent Star Fox entries. That's just me stating personal preference. Because I really, really like Star Fox Assault, and I don't think I need that to be a carrot on any stick. I think most of our audience who have listened for a long time, who have heard me blabber into this microphone, know that my two favorite Star Fox games, and I'm a little freak, and you can hate me all you want, you can spit on me, I actually like that. I'm into that, but my two favorite Star Fox games are Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault. And the little caveat I put on that is my favorite traditional style Star Fox game, and traditional style, that's in scare quotes because I know there's a lot about this game that isn't traditional, but my favorite traditional style Star Fox game is in fact Star Fox Assault. That doesn't mean I don't like Star Fox 64. Don't take me wrong. But damn, there's something about Star Fox Assault that just does it for me, and I'll try to explain it as we go.
All right, so one thing I really wanted to take advantage of doing this episode on was to kind of delve into the development history of this game as best as I could understand it, because bluntly, it's weird. It's very strange.
It's honestly, can I just say, I did not know much about the origins of this game. It came out in a very fraught era for the fandom. When I say the fandom, I mean Rare fandom. I mean DKU fandom. To speak nothing of Star Fox fandom, which I like. That was kind of more of a split off thing from us at the time, where a lot of Star Fox aficionados just didn't like Adventures because they didn't understand the origins of Adventures and why that existed. And so it was just a very, very befuddling time for everyone during the early to mid aughts. And I actually don't know a lot about how this one came about.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of research on my own because this game's like pre-release cycle kind of started up at a time when I was just starting to get online a lot more than I had been. And even back in this era, I feel like generally, unless you were obsessively reading, with exceptions like obsessively reading Rare's website, since they were one of the more open developers at the time, it was hard to follow the ongoing development of a game that hadn't come out yet, not just because of lack of documentation, but because, unlike now where a game might take 7 years to make, these could be pretty rapid fire.
Mm-hmm. I would also say there's the language barrier.
7 years if it comes out.
The language barrier, too, for a lot of the Japanese interviews. As we well know here at DK Vine, even the translated interviews could be translated poorly. And so we would have the entirely wrong impression of the motives behind some decisions in a game. And so there's a lot of fog of war even around a lot of the Nintendo games.
That's Command Hyle. We're not there yet.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, to that end, like my information, a lot of this information came from translations of developer interviews that in some cases weren't even like online in English until years and years after the fact. So, like, I'll do a quick credit shout out to both the Krystal Archive and Shmupulations for hosting translations of two of the interviews that were very, very informative here. And, of course, I did a lot of this research independently, and then come to find out, reading the Wikipedia page for Star Fox Assault, Oh, it was all just kind of laid bare a lot more concisely than I could have written it.
Wow. You know, for me, it's not authentic unless you read it in the original Saurian.
So, speaking of Soria, so this was kind of the initial thing that really shocked me, looking into the development of this, because again, I was young enough, I didn't really have the concept of time that I do now. Hyle, without consulting the show notes, when do you imagine Star Fox Assault started development?
See, it's going to be wrong. You're setting me up to be wrong, Cameron. I don't like this. Like, the entire premise of this is
I'm telling you my preconceived notions were wrong about this. So.
All right, so just like with everything Donkey Kong, right, it would have to be, I would say, post-buyout, so probably not till early 2003 at the earliest.
Summer of 2002, before the Rare buyout.
I mean, I'm sure, okay, yes, technically yes, I'm sure Nintendo, like, knew it was coming, like, they knew Rare was leaving, they knew they were courting other buyers, but yeah, that is even before Star Fox Adventures is out.
And that was fascinating to me because I feel like a lot of the general mood online was that, even if people don't outright say it, I feel like Assault is kind of viewed as damage control for Adventures existing, because Adventures generated a lot of ire for not just being a direct follow-up to Star Fox 64, even though it kind of clearly telegraphed, well, it was never trying to be that. It's named Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah.
But this kind of shows, like, the gears had been turning to make a more quote-unquote traditional Star Fox game before Adventures was even off the assembly line.
And that kind of makes sense. I mean, when you consider that Star Fox Adventures, of course, did not start life as a Star Fox game, and a large part of its development was not as a Star Fox game. So the fact that they made that decision to integrate the Star Fox characters and mythology into the game as best they could, that wouldn't have prohibited any other discussions that might have been being had to make it a more traditional Star Fox game. And I've always maintained that the original title of Star Fox Adventures, when it became Star Fox Adventures, Dinosaur Planet, suggested that Star Fox Adventures could be kind of a sub-brand to the series that maybe, had Rare stayed with Nintendo, they could have shepherded, and it could have been kind of like Donkey Kong Country is a brand. Star Fox Adventures could have been theirs, and then other studios, including internally at Nintendo, could have handled the rail shooter Star Fox games.
Right, like, I agree wholeheartedly. Even keeping that title would have left it open for studios after Rare departed to take up that mantle if they so wanted. It could be kind of the sub-brand of Star Fox that's allowed to get more experimental and is allowed to not center around pew-pew space shooting.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that it started that early also makes it all the more impressive that Adventures is as tightly woven into the DNA of this as it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is effectively a sequel. It's not a sequel in genre, but it is a sequel in story and character evolution from Star Fox Adventures. And I don't think we at DK Vine were expecting that when it was announced. Even when we saw Krystal was in it, I don't think we were expecting it to go as hard as it does, honoring Star Fox Adventures and what had just transpired.
Yeah. We'll definitely have a spot to talk at length about that. But,
this is weird. I didn't do the show notes, everybody. I'm just flying blind here.
So, the earliest mention I was able to find of Namco and Nintendo getting together on a Star Fox game, in May of 2002, Namco and Nintendo, and I'll be just calling them Namco for the duration of this. I know that they're Bandai Namco now, but they weren't at the time. Namco is just easier to say. Namco and Nintendo, with Miyamoto present, publicly announced that they were going to engage in a partnership venture where Namco would be heavily supporting both the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance with a lot of original titles, and they were also going to produce, in collaboration with Nintendo, a new Star Fox game. And we have a quote from the Japanese site Games Watch. This was an archived link, because I think this site may no longer exist, or at least this page doesn't. This is machine translated, so please bear with me. The article says that Atsushi Shiozawa, producer at CT Company, who'd been working on the Ace Combat series, said, "We've always pursued realism in the Ace Combat series. We intended to continue pursuing realism in the future, but because of that, there are many things we want to do but can't. For example, we couldn't express the fun of action such as racing fighter jets against trains, or people confronting fighter jets. Every time that happened, I thought, I wish we could do something like Star Fox." Again, quoting the article, "In that context, he made a suggestion to bring Star Fox into the world of Ace Combat, and Nintendo readily agreed. Things progressed very quickly from there. Shiozawa expressed his ambition to create a shooting game that is as lively as an action movie." This is weird because this gentleman is only credited in Star Fox Assault as special thanks. As far as I can tell, nobody with a leadership role on Ace Combat was involved in the making of this game.
So clearly,
so this kind of feels like it may have been a PR thing.
Yeah.
And at this presentation, they showed off some very early visual aids, a very temp logo for the game, and this poster attributed to Takeya Imamura that looks very bizarre, looks nothing like how Assault would end up looking. It kind of just looks like an HD-ified Star Fox 64 a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm looking in the show notes here, and yeah, it definitely looks nowhere close to the, I'll say, unique art style Assault had in the series.
Yeah, these R-Wings also kind of just don't look like any R-Wing design in the series. They're very bulbous, I would say. Also around this time, and I had a very hard time finding any concrete information on this, but contemporary articles from IGN and that aforementioned article about this public announcement say this is the case, that Nintendo and Namco had discussed bringing Star Fox to the Triforce arcade board. For those who don't know, the Triforce arcade board was a collaboration between Nintendo, Sega, and Namco, 3 developers, hence the name, to create a development-friendly GameCube-based arcade architecture. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of easily develop between the two, maybe cross over a little bit. This is kind of what birthed like Mario Kart Arcade GP, I believe.
Right.
The most concrete thing it birthed, I think, that people know is F-Zero AX, the arcade equivalent to GX that it had crossover via the memory card. But as far as I can figure out, nothing really surfaced. It seems like if there was any plans to make an arcade Star Fox, they were abandoned.
Which is weird, because that would actually be a good fit, Star Fox in arcade setting. Like, I could actually see that. Almost feels like a better fit than Mario Kart.
It's one of Nintendo's few games series that has a heavy emphasis on score attack gameplay, which is just perfect for arcades. But I mean, Nintendo had some rough years in the GameCube era. I imagine that was maybe a factor, and also arcades in general were having a rough time.
I mean, they still are, I would say.
They kind of just are perpetually having a rough time.
It's like
if they're having a time at all. It's
like malls, they've been basically dying for 30 years.
And this partnership with Namco seems to have, even if it may not have paid off in the way they'd have liked with Assault, it's certainly seems to have paid forward a lot. They are a frequent collaborator with Nintendo. Namco's co-developed 3 Smash Brothers games. Nintendo ended up absorbing Bandai Namco Singapore. They're pretty tight these days.
Yeah, Donkey Konga, as I alluded to earlier. The legacy looms large.
So as far as the general game taking shape, I couldn't really figure out like which was the chicken and the egg here, but a few things are stated in these interviews. Takayama Nomura, who I'll be bringing up a lot because he, up until leaving Nintendo around, I think, 2021, was a super key figure in the production of Star Fox games. In some cases, I'd say more significant than Miyamoto, depending on which capacity. But he expressed interest in a Star Fox game that expanded upon the multiplayer battle mode in Star Fox 64, which I know a lot of people had a lot of fun with, but it is pretty bare bones.
Oh, yeah.
All things considered. But it did have R-Wing combat, it had Landmaster combat as an unlockable, and if you went really hardcore with it, had on-foot shooting gameplay as an unlockable.
I could never unlock that. I never had the patience to unlock that, but I remember seeing screenshots of it in, I think, the player's guide, and thinking, oh, that looks cool. I wish I could control these characters on foot.
It's very fever dreamy, and unfortunately, I think it is the kind of thing where, well, after you've done enough to actually unlock this, I feel like you'll be too good at Star Fox to casually play it in multiplayer with anybody.
Yeah. Nobody would have a good time.
So, concurrently, Namco had approached Nintendo with some planning documents that are described having the vague title of Vehicle Swapping War Action Game. With the idea being, like, what if you have a competitive multiplayer game, but you can just freely swap between whether you're like on foot, in some sort of aerial vehicle, in some sort of land vehicle. At least I assume that's what the nature of that was, given what the game is. And that's sort of the starting point for what would eventually become Assault. And I have this pull quote from, translated from the Krystal archive, that Miyamoto had requested from them a Star Fox game that was cooler and slicker than ever before.
Miyamoto's like, make it cooler than I am capable of making. No pressure. No pressure. I simply don't have the riz to make the Star Fox game I truly want to see.
He wants sexy dames and cool spaceships. Get to it.
I mean, good for him knowing his limitations, right?
So, with that in mind, development on Star Fox Assault, in this very weird way, began centered purely on the multiplayer versus battle mode, with the main hook of the game being that you could freely switch between the Landmasters and R-Wings. And the single-player story mode was developed out of the groundwork for this multiplayer gameplay, which explains a lot about the structure of the game the way it is.
For sure,
Because
yeah.
Apparently, at some point, they were even seriously considering just not even having a single-player component, which, oh boy, if you thought some people reacted not well to Assault as is...
I mean, like, yeah, that would be more along the lines of reaction to Star Fox Guard or whatever. Like, I wouldn't have liked that because, I'm all about single player experiences. I'm all about story and world immersion, and I'm less about just the arcade mechanical aspects of gaming. But, I mean, as an origin point, I completely see that. Because that is the big innovation of Assault, isn't it? It's being able to jump from vehicle to vehicle or on foot and having that kind of freedom where you're less constrained than you are in the traditional on-rails style of Star Fox or Star Fox 64.
Yeah, and the way the game kind of presents it to you, I feel like that almost goes under the radar that is the entire point of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are playing the single-player story, you don't really encounter that hook until the second level. And you may not realize, well, most of the game is going to be this. It's not going to be the thing you just played.
Yes. The first mission is a traditional R-Wing level, and maybe that kind of sets expectations poorly, especially for the people who just got done griping about adventures for several years.
So I am just going to read this quick bit from the Nintendo Dream interview, speaking to Tsuyoshi Kobayashi, who was the producer on the game from Namco. I just kind of want to present this in isolation. It's not going to really move this conversation along, but
Okay.
Here we go. From Nintendo Dream, there are 3 different controller setups for Assault. Kobayashi, it was very difficult for us to solidify the controls. Should Y be the jump button? Lots of issues like that. Imamura, there was a lot of debate surrounding the controls. Kobayashi, our biggest worry was how Fox would control when you're playing as him. Initially, we implemented a twin-stick FPS-style control scheme, which is the basic control scheme you see in America. But when we actually played it, as we'd feared, it was pretty difficult. So we decided to add a one-stick control scheme, which would be more universally intuitive for players. The FPS-style twin-stick is difficult at first, but once you get used to it, it feels like you can do anything. In addition to those 2 setups, we added an acceleration-style control scheme, which harkens back to the N64 controls, where you press the R trigger to accelerate. It's kind of a weird one, but we thought there might be some older fans who would enjoy it, so ultimately, we ended up with those 3 layouts. I'm not going to say anything, but I am making a Jim from The Office face at the camera about a Star Fox game having 3 different controller options because they wanted to make sure any player's preferred style of being able to operate the game would be addressed.
And yet they couldn't make it compatible with the DK bongos. Really quick, I want to say hello. We got some newcomers in the stream. Hello to Traveler of the Stars. Hello to Yozoi Ranger. Hello to Me Muppet. Hello to Jem, who has joined us. Hello to Malik.
Hello, everybody. Wow, quite a crowd.
People are into Star Fox right now. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's weird. And just a couple other aspects discussed about the nature of the structure of this game. 2 big departures from other departures from Star Fox 64. Even though this is a more quote-unquote traditional game, there are no alternate routes in this game. This is a singular story vision. You go to the same locations every run. You have the same missions every run. And they kind of discuss in the interviews they feel like this was made up for in the name of these are longer missions with checkpoints, and that kind of means you have more things to do, even though there's only one story. And I do think that does strike a good balance.
I agree. I didn't miss the alternate routes. I honestly, like, I can't say I prefer this because I am a freak, but like, I playing this, and just full disclosure, I did not actually like completely 100% beat Star Fox Assault, like get all the medals, clear it at all difficulties until around the time of Donkey Kong Country Returns. I think it was probably 2011 I beat this. And that's really where I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, wow, like this actually hits far harder than I remember when it came out. But like my impression walking away from it was, yeah, I think it's kind of great. And I'm glad they didn't do alternate routes because it kept everything a lot more focused for the story they wanted to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I know not having alternate routes is a big sticking point for some people. I think what they did with not having them satisfies me, and it did help them build a more consistent flowing narrative than you could really in Star Fox 64, because I love Star Fox 64 to death. I love all of its cutscenes. It's very good at kind of making every destination an episodic adventure that's very engaging, but that's just it. They're very episodic because you don't know necessarily what planet you're coming in from.
Mm-hmm.
And also significant to this, this game has a mission select, unlike Star Fox 64, where you had to kind of, like, say, if you wanted to reach the medal threshold on Sector Z, you would have to play the entire game up to that point to get to Sector Z. You might arrive there with like a team full of half-broken R-Wings and like Cat showing up partway through your mission and kind of hampering your ability to take down the missiles for hits because she's a partner character who helps take them down. And Uemamura expressed regret in this interview that Star Fox 64 didn't have a mission select, so you could just jump into any stage and retry it, not have to replay the whole game.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't really realize this when the game came out, but this sort of structure, if you actually engage with what the game wants you to do, going back to these levels and engaging with its scoring system to try and achieve all these side objectives, there is so much meat to it, and I feel like you get a greater understanding of why the design is the way it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And across these interviews, I did kind of pick out some key development figures, the people who were being asked a lot of these questions or were just very formative to the game. I'm going to run through them really quick because mostly I just wanted to give them their due because we're in these interviews and kind of contextualize who these people were at Nintendo and at Namco. Like, obviously Miyamoto, I don't need an explanation there. Yoshihito Ikebata was the game supervisor on the Nintendo side. He's still working at Nintendo as an associate producer and supervisor, at least from the information I could find. And he seems to do a lot of work with studios that are outside Nintendo's core Japanese offices. I specifically wanted to bring up because it's relevant to the DKU. He has a lot of credits on Mario vs. Donkey Kong games.
Great. Love it.
Takuya Imamura, of course, co-producer on this game, original designer of the Star Fox cast, and a huge guiding figure in the series up until he left Nintendo. Has graphic design credit on the original Star Fox, art director of Star Fox 64, and from then on, he's on every game in the series in either a high-up supervisory or producer capacity up through Star Fox Guard. And consistently in any interviews I've found regarding Adventures or Assault, he specifically has outlines that he was a huge advocate in the 2000s of Star Fox being a series that had an advancing, ever-changing story that felt like it was evolving and didn't necessarily get locked into the same status quo.
Imagine that. Wow. You say he left Nintendo? Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll be good.
Hey, you're saying what I have said I'm not allowed to say.
Mm-hmm.
Seo Kobayashi, the producer on the Namco side of things. I couldn't find significant DKU credits for obvious reasons, but I wanted to bring some of these people up because I was shocked to find they had lead roles in some of my favorite non-DKU games. Namco's Klonoa series, which is also a series starring a big-eared fuzzy animal. He was the director on Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. And then from there we have 3 different directors, all handling kind of different facets of this game. Because, heavily established, little all over the place. All of them from Namco. Toshiyuki Nakanishi, he was the all-range gameplay director for this game, and this game seems to have been one of his only director roles. The only other ones I could find were for a Wii game called Go Vacation and Klonoa Heroes for the GBA. Also worked on Klonoa 2 and Klonoa Moonlight Museum for the Wonder Swan. Hideki Okazaki, the shooting mode director, which I have to assume means the on-rails shooting levels. I could not find very many credits outside of this game at all. He was a director on the PSP game Naruto Shippuden Kizuna Drive, and had special thanks credit in Klonoa Heroes. Yutaka Yoshida, battle mode director at Namco, he seems to have bounced around the industry between companies, and the only other Namco or Nintendo role I could find was as the planning director on the game Me and My Katamari. So I kind of looked into the staff of this game expecting to find some credits where I went like, oh, that makes a lot of sense on the Namco side, or see like, oh, wow, they went on to do a really big thing that I didn't expect. And no, their most prominent role seemed to be in this niche series that I'm just happen to be a huge fan of. And because this was a Nintendo Namco collab, there was some scrutiny on whether, like, okay, to what extent did Namco define this game and what extent did Nintendo define this game? And in this interview, they sort of contextualize, the interview asks, so Nintendo wrote the story then? Imamura, we left the details up to Namco. They'd also show us what they'd written, and we'd offer our opinion or make suggestions. But for big stuff, like, for example, putting Krystal in the game or something, those requests came from us. I am glad we had them put Krystal in, though. That was the right call.
Interesting.
So it kind of seems like maybe Namco was the guiding hand on the overall scenario of what the game was, but Nintendo had big requirements for what they should add, and they were very supportive of this game as a follow-up on Star Fox Adventures. Krystal should be a part of it.
The thing that people forget or they dismiss, given the controversy and the growing anti-Rare sentiment among Nintendo loyalists, but also the gaming press of that era, Star Fox Adventures sold really well. Star Fox Adventures was an early top seller on the GameCube.
Yeah, it got one of those fancy gold header boxes denoting it was a million seller.
Yeah, so the idea that Nintendo would want to follow up on it, wouldn't want to just bury it in the dustbin of history, makes all the sense in the world at the time.
And I thought this was an interesting note. Kobayashi apparently revealed the Aporoids, the new threat of this game. It's not Andross anymore.
Nope.
This is a very different threat for Star Fox. These sort of like insectoid creatures.
Kind of like insectoid, kind of like Starship Troopers meets the Borg from Star Trek. They're like a hive mind that assimilate.
It's very interesting. They are extremely Borg-coded, but they keep that reveal hidden from you for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are.
Oh yeah, sorry, spoilers, everyone. We're going to be getting into Star Fox Assault spoilers on this episode. I apologize.
But yeah, Kobayashi pointed out that this was apparent. I think this was his influence. The Aporoids were inspired by Namco's own history of insectoid alien threats, like in Galaxian and Galaga.
I don't know why. I thought you were going to say Namco's own history of insect infestations, like they're in constant need of exterminators at their studios.
In fairness, I feel like this was a weirdly like this makes sense to me hearing that, but I think back to arcade games of that era and even like early home stuff. There were a lot of like shoot the aliens games where the aliens were extremely informed by bugs.
Yeah. I think it's because you don't really need them to have spaceships then if they're big bugs. And I mean, it makes sense. But also, like, and I'm sure we're going to get into this when we actually talk about the like beat by beat aspects of the game. But I think the Aporoids were such a great, refreshing fit for the series. Especially for those who played and liked Star Fox Adventures, who were like kind of sick of Andross. I know as Donkey Kong fans coming into this, we have a different perspective because we're like, no, stop changing out the villain. We want to just appreciate the same villain for a bit. But I think Andross having like revealed, oh, I'm behind it all in Star Fox Adventures, like fans were ready to kind of move on for a bit from Andross. And from going to like having that cold calculating mastermind coming up with these grand machinations and master plans to something that's more just a force of nature was a real good shift in threat.
Yeah, I appreciate that they were a brand new threat, and I also think the specific nature of what they are makes them really compelling as antagonists in the Star Fox universe specifically. Because to just kind of get in, like fast forward a little bit when we get into the story, Star Fox is a universe I feel that thrives on very colorful, like loud, charming character dialogue and like sort of like this endearing like action movie charm with these very very like archetypal characters. Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh, Falco's a smug hothead. Pigma is an absolute slime ball. That sort of thing.
It's all very, like, on the nose, these characters. And they're very loud. They're very brash. It's a little bit melodramatic at times. And it, like, veers into the cheesy kind of... almost like a parody that's just utterly sincere. That's what I love about it, though. I love that it makes no apologies for what it is. And, like, that is actually what I look for is, people like make fun of the voice acting for this and Adventures, but I'm like, nah, man, like drip that cheese in there.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I love the series, and a big reason I find the Aperoids so compelling as antagonists is the, like, modus operandi of them is essentially, oh, these colorful characters and personalities that you love so much, what if we take them away from you?
yeah, just... And they're not robotic, but there is that kind of Borg element to them where what if we just strip these characters of all emotion and individuality and just leave them these flesh husk? And it's terrifying. There is some really creepy body horror in this one.
I mean, yeah, I remember, like, younger me playing this back in the day. I was actually, like, kind of unnerved by some of the stuff that happens in this. I realize with the benefit of hindsight, it's still very, like, presented in a very family-friendly way, but it does, like, kind of... It has that ick factor when you think about it too deeply.
Oh, yeah.
Which I obviously did because I work for DK Vine.
Yeah, there were times playing this where I felt like I had something crawling under my skin, and I had to, like, go take a shower at the very least to feel externally clean, even if my interior still felt haunted. So it does its job, and it does its job very well. I think the Aperoids, just personally speaking, are maybe my favorite antagonist in the Star Fox series. And I say that like being a huge fan of Adventures and really liking Star Fox 64, but I think the Aperoids work just because they're such a contrast.
It's tough for me to say because I do think overall they probably are, like, as an entity, my favorite antagonistic force in the Star Fox universe. But I can't discount that a lot of the rank and file in Star Fox 64 are very charming and some of my favorite characters. I adore the engineer of the Forever Train on Macbeth who talks like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, and of course I like Pigma, and we'll be talking about Pigma here in a bit. But yeah, I think just overall, as far as like the broader overarching
like
threat.
I enjoy Andross's forces on an individual level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As
an entity, I do think I'm a little bit more compelled by the Aperoids than Andross himself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, 2003, this game is revealed, shown off at E3 2003, and it is received very, very poorly.
I remember this. I was not at E3 2003, but I was watching from home. And, this was the first post-buyout E3. So the first E3, like, we knew Rare wouldn't be there in a Nintendo capacity, at least like they were. And... man, knives are out. We were ready to hate on some shit, and this looked extremely hateable at the time.
I will give context because you might be listening to this and think, geez, wow, really? What could possibly have been so wrong? I want to read this pull quote from the article in EGM covering that E3. Nintendo's E3 press conferences are usually the stuff of legends. Rousing applause, impassioned cheers, and swooning fanboys are standard issue at its annual lineup unveilings. This year, however, during a brief and remarkably unimpressive clip of Star Fox 2, the cheers quickly faded to stunned silence, finally broken by a single loud boo. Something was definitely wrong.
Yeah, Star Fox 2 is how it was promoted in the early days. Like, what do you mean Star Fox 2? Are you saying this is a remake of the Star Fox 2 that never came out for the Super Nintendo? Are you saying this is Star Fox 2 as in Star Fox Adventures is now considered the first? Like, what?
It took a weirdly long time for them to publicly lock down a name for this game. I'd seen it reported as Star Fox, with the implication it's parentheses for Nintendo GameCube. Star Fox 2. Some places had Star Fox Armada.
Yeah.
These interviews contextualized. Apparently, Assault was a suggested subtitle from Nintendo of America, and humorously, it seemed like there was a trademark conflict in Japan because there was a game of the name called Assault, a pre-existing game, and of course Star Fox has a fraught history with having to navigate around pre-existing trademarks. You'll know that if you live in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But as a bit of lucky happenstance, the company that owned the trademark on the game Assault was Namco.
Hey, there you go.
So obviously, that just kind of negotiated itself, and Star Fox Assault became the name of the game. But, so, for why everybody reacted so virulently negative to this game, looking at what they showed off, I completely understand why, because looking at this footage, looking at these early screenshots, this game is clearly in such an early state of development. I don't know if I've ever seen Nintendo publicly reveal a game that was clearly this early in development. A lot of the assets are clearly placeholders in this footage. There's a very weird texture on this very low poly R-wing. They show off what's clearly Corneria, but some of the buildings just look like bare cylinders.
Yeah.
It's rough. And with the context of what the game ended up being, you realize, oh, okay, this is just the underlying bones of them building what would become a very pretty looking game. But if you're going to a trade show, you're not going to have that context.
Oh, especially in 2003, I don't think many people would have that context. Plus, Nintendo usually doesn't show things off in this state. So, I don't know why they wanted to get that out there as early as they did. But, yeah, it definitely casts a negative impression. And the game was something of a punchline on DK Vine during this weird little period on the website. And it took a while for us to warm up to it. We did start to warm up to it a little bit. I remember by the time we got to E3 2004, I was definitely thinking, oh well, we might have to give this one a chance. This might actually be worth our while, and maybe we were a little bit too hard on it. I was generally, though, even back then, the one who was always trying to look at the glass half full. I remember how quickly people on the site wanted to bash King of Swing when it was announced. I was like, what are we talking about? This looks all right. This looks fun. This looks like it's up our alley. So I did come around on this, I think, within the year. But, of course, seeing later, more developed screenshots and footage certainly helped.
Yeah, I think when they re-showed the game off a year later and it was much, much closer to the way the final game actually looks, it was a much easier sell to people. Because it kind of made clear, what we saw before was the skeleton of this.
Yes. And again, Nintendo usually doesn't show things off this early, and for the era, we had just come off of Star Fox Adventures 2, which is a very pretty game. It was a very gorgeous, technically impressive game on the GameCube. And, I mean, I still think it's one of the GameCube's best-looking titles. And to go from that to what we were seeing at E3 2003 was shocking.
Yeah, I feel like still the only... this game, honestly, its visual sensibilities hew pretty close to what Adventures was for Star Fox, just kind of putting their own spin on it. And I think the one big like bugaboo for me back in the day was I remember being really disappointed. Oh, Fox isn't furry anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
but I lacked the context as that young to understand why that was.
Mm-hmm.
This game clearly would not have run well if it did that.
It's a different kind of game. It's a different genre. It's doing different things. It's prioritizing, different things than adventures could. And I think it was just the shitty Rare fan in me who was like, well, nobody's going to make a GameCube game that looks as good as Star Fox Adventures now.
Yeah.
And there was that baked in. That was a big part of my kind of brain set at the time because of Donkey Kong Country setting the standard at the outset of my fandom for all of this, saying like, well, I expect games to look a certain way. And actually, I think it was King of Swing that helped start breaking me out of that and start to be more open to different art styles and to realize like it doesn't have to be like this amazing graphical revolution every time a game comes out.
I do think a component of the early reaction to this game in a lot of the circles like you and I overlapped, and I had this to some extent, was, well, you're not my real dad.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. I've often said that, and maybe this is coming from a place of privilege, but I often compare the Nintendo Rare split to your parents splitting up. It's like, oh no, this unit that was taking me through my childhood that I always relied on is no longer together. Who's at fault? Who do I blame? And then that just like colors everything else in your continuing relationship.
Right, so here I am being like, well, you didn't make Fox fuzzy like Rare did, not realizing that, well, no, for a lot of Star Fox Adventures, Fox isn't actually furry either. The resolution is just hiding that from you.
Yeah. Rare was very good at sleight of hand tricks and making your brain think one thing and really just pushing the boundaries of system limitations. And I'm no expert when it comes to any of this, but Star Fox Assault eventually became much prettier. It's still kind of washed out. It's still got this
even then more colorful than a lot of games before and after it.
Yes.
Given the time period,
I would say for a Star Fox game the color palette is extremely muted. And, it's not the best game to look at, but ultimately I became okay with it, especially once you play it. It's one of those things where you can look at screenshots and video footage and be hypercritical. Once you actually start playing it, you will forget all about it. You will get engrossed in it, and you will forget about all of those little details because you will believe in the world.
So, and enough about the pre-release period of the game, now that we're over an hour into the episode. Let's get into stuff that's in the realized game or surrounding it. I have here a 2 pages from the English the US release manual for Star Fox Assault.
Oh yeah.
And this was back in the era where I would make sure to read through the manual before I popped the game in, because I didn't know what important thing I might miss. And I'm very glad I read through this.
This is from the era where Nintendo had game cases, so your manual could just stay in there and you wouldn't lose it. So, yeah, this is definitely something I would pore over. I read this when it came out. I reread it all when I played it back in early 2011. And I really like this little story so far, or excuse me, the history of Star Fox 2-page little catch-up. Now, of course, it doesn't bring up Star Fox for the Super Nintendo because those events are effectively Star Fox 64. It doesn't bring up Star Fox 2 because at this point that was still not released, so we're basically ignoring it in the canon.
Yeah, I wonder, Hyle, would you do the honors of reading through this? And I mean, we could tag team each subheading if you want, or you can just read through the whole thing.
I'll just read. I mean, if you want, you've been talking a lot, Cameron. This is a little bit different. I've been resting my vocal cords. I'll read the whole thing. Okay. The history of Star Fox. Andross's ambition, parentheses, Star Fox 64. Corneria, the fourth planet of the peaceful Lilat system, is threatened by the forces of the mad scientist Andross. In response to this crisis, the Cornerian Commander-in-Chief, General Pepper, entrusts the fate of the planet to Fox, Falco, Slippy, and Peppy, who together form the Star Fox team. After many vicious battles, the mercenaries reach the enemy stronghold on the planet Venom, where Fox challenges Andross to single combat. After a pitched battle, Fox narrowly defeats Andross, and the threat is vanquished. The Plight of Saria, Star Fox Adventures. A few years after the Andross affair, Fox is hired to investigate the planet Saria. After adventuring across the surface, he reveals Andross as the culprit behind the troubles. The team is forced into a ferocious battle, but when it seems all is lost, Falco rejoins the team in the nick of time, and Star Fox once again defeats Andross. With the reinstatement of Falco, and the addition of the mysterious young woman, Krystal, a new Star Fox team is born. And then, a new journey, parentheses, Star Fox Assault. 1 year has passed. After getting kicked out of Star Wolf's band of thugs, Andrew, how do you pronounce his surname? Oikini, okay. Andrew Oikini, because I feel like that should be Pigma's last. That always throws me.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's definitely drilled into my head for this game because for some reason, this is a localization choice in Assault and Star Fox Command. Andrew is almost always referred to by his last name.
Okay.
So the characters say it a lot.
After getting kicked out of Star Wolf's band of thugs, Andrew Oikini takes control of his dead uncle Andross's remaining army and starts a rebellion. The Cornerian fleet is sent out to deal with the rebels and hostilities commence. However, Oikini's army uses unexpected guerrilla tactics. That's, by the way, Gorilla, G-U-E, not Gorilla, G-O-R. I understand it's confusing because they're simians.
No, Donkey Kong uses unexpected guerrilla tactics.
Right. We're going to have to use some unexpected guerrilla tactics, get that Radley statue in the new Emerald, right? Unexpected guerrilla tactics, and the battle takes a turn for the worse. The exasperated General Pepper asked his old friend Peppy to help stop Oikini, and the Star Fox team takes off on a new mission. So that really buries the lead of what the plot is going to be, but that is indeed how it sets it up.
Yeah. I love this recap, and also point out we have our first big new lore contribution for DKU heads. Saria is the official name of Dinosaur Planet. This was always a part of the lore of Dinosaur Planet. This name is from that, but they never actually said it in Star Fox Adventures. They always called the planet Dinosaur Planet.
Which is a very clunky name.
It's a weird choice. It was a good name, and I think it organically kind of fits in with the Star Fox universe that has planets named like Aquas and Solar, the sun.
Yeah, we're going to call the sun Solar.
Titania.
Yeah, it is weird. And I always just took Dinosaur Planet to be a very blunt, like, colloquial term for it. But Saria is its proper name. And, I like this. I like this because it honestly should have been used in Star Fox Adventures.
Right. This is kind of a soft retcon, but it's just what it always should have been.
it's one of those things where I quickly took to it. I was like, oh, thank God. I don't have to say Dinosaur Planet as much. Save some time, you know? Dinosaur Planet. I could just be saying Soria. Imagine what I could do with my life if I'm just saying Soria all this time. Man, I could have been a lawyer, a doctor.
Yeah, just looking back through the chat a little bit. Traveler asks, Cam, is this your favorite Star Fox game? We'll get to it.
I just want to reiterate, this is my second favorite Star Fox game, but my favorite Star Fox game is not really a Star Fox game. It's Star Fox Adventures. So, like, I'm the wrong person to ask. I'm very curious what Cameron thinks.
Yeah. So I was a little rocky trying to figure out the structure of this, like, because I wanted to talk about kind of the pieces that make up Namco's spin on Star Fox. The story, the characters, the music, the sound direction, the voice cast. But I feel like a lot of those elements just blend into talking about the characters themselves. They kind of just naturally come into it. So I thought what might be the most efficient is to just start off, let's talk about the Star Fox team as they exist in this game.
Hell yes. Yes, this is... yes, this is my preferred Star Fox team. No slight to Peppy on the roster. Peppy's still here. Peppy's basically the guy in the chair now. And
yeah, it should be stressed, like, Krystal is the one flying the 4th R-Wing. Peppy is still very much on the Star Fox team. You're getting dialogue from him constantly. It is like he never really left. He's just not physically there with you.
Yes, exactly. And, I know it's a game that kind of riffs on things like Top Gun, but I don't think there's really any reason Star Fox should remain such a sausage fest as far as the core team goes. So I do like that we have more feminine representation on the team, even if her whole reason for being there is because they wanted a hot girl.
I love Star Fox 64 to death. It is an issue that it only has one girl, and she is the pink flirty one.
Yeah, and like, we'll talk about Krystal when we get there.
And I mean, this game also only has one girl, but at least it is another girl in the Star Fox universe.
Yes, and
I suppose there's technically at least 2 women in this game, but we'll get to it.
Yes, and she's on the team, and it presents an interesting dynamic that she is the new member of the team. She is in a romantic relationship with Fox, and it kind of does... I know in a lot of people's headcanon, there's probably some romantic relationships already going on in Star Fox 64, but this makes anything that could be subtext actual text, and it kind of opens up some storytelling possibilities as a result.
Yeah, so just starting off talking about the designs in this game, because these are pretty standout. Not for the same reasons certain other Star Fox designs stand out, but I'd say these are pretty stand out within the context of the series.
Of the era, yeah.
Certainly in attire. And I think kind of a rare instance, we actually have some context as to who contributed these designs, because there is concept art with, like, thorough character turnarounds floating around the internet, credited to Hidetomo Komaki. I had difficulty finding any of their other credits, but just to name some relatively recent, and by that I mean years ago at this point, but more recent than Star Fox Assault, they were credited with artwork on Dragon Quest XI and Street Fighter V. And these character designs are, I said, their attire is noteworthy. This is the most the Star Fox team as a unit have ever deviated from the standard look of gray flight jacket and scarf over a colored flight suit and belt.
Yes, for sure. I like the way they all look here. It looks like they've seriously invested in some upgrades based on the influx of cash they got from the Saurian job.
The overarching thought I have when looking at both the character and machine design in this game is, holy shit, they are loaded after Sauria.
And for context, Star Fox Adventures began with the team basically running on fumes. You know, Falco had left, but even more than that, it's kind of implied they haven't had a real good-paying job in a while. And things are kind of falling...
That's the life of a freelancer for you, as I've unfortunately learned.
But things are falling apart. The Great Fox is in disarray. Rob is in disarray. And like they are kind of at wit's end with their job. And this is picking up, a year or so after Star Fox Adventures. And now, like, the fruits of their labor there are really on display. Like, everything was kind of grimy and had that Star Wars used aesthetic in Star Fox Adventures. Here, everything is kind of sleek and refreshed, and I appreciate it because we do have context for why.
Yeah, it's a very different creative direction for the Star Fox team, and personally, how I feel about these designs. It's not my all-time favorite look for them. I wouldn't want it to become the permanent look. But I like them a lot in this context because with the context that this represents Star Fox as an evolving story. This is them after their hardship and adventures. This is after their early days in Star Fox 64. This feels very much like an era for Star Fox.
Yes, Star Fox, the era tour.
Like, the comparison that, jumps to my head is the Beatles, and I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
These are as much these are as much Star Fox as the clean-cut mop top and matching suit Beatles from the Ed Sullivan Show are the same long-haired, scraggly, bearded Beatles wrapped up in winter coats that played on the rooftop of Apple.
Yeah. Or General Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
So just kind of getting into all of them individually and taking in the totality of both the design and kind of how the game treats them as characters. We'll start off in the logical place, Fox, which unfortunately is kind of, I feel, not the best foot forward for this game, in my opinion.
Okay. Fox is probably my least favorite design of all of them in this game, and I think it's just squarely down to his head.
I feel like his head looks very foam mascot heady to me in this game. It's still not, I don't think it's a terrible look for Fox. It is still far from my favorite, especially, I feel like both, his Adventures design and even his design in Super Smash Bros. Melee were kind of interpreting the shape language of his Star Fox 64 design in a more realism-minded way. This feels like it's kind of just going for an entirely different take on an anthropomorphic fox with the same visual elements.
Mm-hmm.
His ears are very pointy, and they kind of accentuated how high his mohawk is. And I kind of feel like the way I'd sum up his outfit in this game is it feels like it's a take off on how he looked in Adventures, but if they made a special armored up action figure version of it.
Yeah, well, it's just like all those Batman figures from the early movies. Right. You don't have many characters. You gotta release Arctic Blast Batman to pad the pegs.
Space Assault Batman.
Yeah. I do like that his Adventures vest is still there. It's still incorporated. He just got a lot more going on under it and around it.
Right. I think that's kind of the thing that unites it for me. That and the green jumpsuit that, well, still primarily green. Because otherwise it is a pretty big departure, attire-wise. So I kind of carved out a space to talk about the voice acting for each of these characters because this is, after Star Fox 64, a full recast for the English voices.
Oh, it has to be because, yeah, Rare's no longer there to provide the voices, which is a shame because I really liked the Rare voice cast for Adventures, who also then appeared in Melee as a little preview.
Yeah.
Although I will say, you know, it is weird to hear Chris Seaver as Slippy because you do hear Conker slip through every now and then.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't have this problem when Adventures came out. Now I am way too familiar with what Chris Seaver sounds like.
Yes.
So I just hear Chris Seaver doing a voice. Steve Malpass is also just kind of doing a talking voice as Fox, but it's just perfect for him.
I really love Steve Malpass's Fox.
I love his Fox, and they did just kind of luck into it because it's the voice he was doing for Saber in Dinosaur Planet. I see from Nintendo's perspective how they were kind of just like, well, Saber kind of has a lot in common with Fox.
Just make a Star Fox. What are you doing? Yeah, I do get it, especially seeing all the like leaked versions of Dinosaur Planet, especially that in between N64 state where they did have Fox running around, and it's like I guess this does like make sense. I was all salty about it back in the day, but I mean, again,
realistically, they weren't going to bring back the Adventures cast because they were all Microsoft employees at that point in time.
Yes.
And I thought it might have been nice to bring back the 64 cast for lack of being able to get Rare's team, but they went the direction they did, and just a kind of my thoughts on the localization of this game in general. For one, I feel like their approach was very much like, we are not going to look at what Star Fox 64 did. We are going to do our own thing. And that not only results in a very different voice direction for the cast, but I think the localization in and of itself is a lot clumsier than Star Fox 64 was. This game's English dub feels very of the time in a way that Star Fox 64 didn't. And there's also, like, you know, a few non-voice acting hiccups, or more voice acting hiccups. There's some, like, script lines that are described in those interviews as being meant to be callbacks to lines from 64 that are lost because they didn't retranslate them the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Or the example that comes to mind is in the very first level, there's a moment where Andrew says, "Is this guy some kind of demon?" That just, for one, that feels like a weird line in the context of Star Fox.
Yeah, what's the theology there? Like, where do they have demons in their various religious customs in the Lylat system?
So apparently that was meant to be a callback to a line in Area 6 where Andross's forces are just kind of absolutely terrified of the Star Fox team. I think the line in Japanese was something like, "Are these guys monsters?"
Oh, okay.
And it was localized as, "These guys are crazy." I also felt like replaying it, I noticed a couple instances where a character seemed like they were speaking with the wrong voice. Either like they left a temp track in, or maybe they realized they didn't have a line, didn't record a line with the original actor, and they couldn't bring them back in for pickups. But the biggest thing that they really dropped the ball on was, so in all the briefing cutscenes where characters kind of talk against this sci-fi hologram background, they redid all the lip flaps to match the English voice acting, but in the process broke all of the facial animation. So if the English version is the only one you played, you may not notice it, but the characters don't really emote the way they should at all. They're very stone-faced. I'm not even sure they blink properly.
Well, I mean, it's a very serious situation, Cameron. Insects are invading the Lilat system and embedding themselves in friends, enemies. It's horrific. I would, too, be very stone-faced. There's no time for jokes or even emotion.
Speaking of stone-faced and lacking emotion, Jim Walker's performance as Fox McCloud in this game.
Yeah, it's not the best Fox portrayal. It's not the most memorable Fox portrayal. It's serviceable. It does the job, but it's probably just as a pure presentation standpoint, the most nothing that Fox has ever been as a character.
It's my least favorite performance I've heard in a fully voice-acted Star Fox game thus far. And to be clear, I do not pin this on the performer. I think that Jim Walker is acting just fine within the direction he was given. I think they sought out a more stoic, intense version of Fox for this game, and I don't really feel like it works.
I guess after how whiny Fox could be in Star Fox Adventures, let's go the opposite direction. He's just got all of his shit together all the time to the point where he's just a piece of wood.
Right, I actually, in researching this episode, looked up part of an interview with Walker. It was conducted by the YouTube channel, the Kitsune Network, and he kind of went into detail about how he got the role of Fox, and the impression I got is, for one thing, he does a lot of voice work, but he wasn't traditionally a voice actor for character work at the time. He was like the guy you get to read ads.
Oh yeah. Which is a different skill set entirely from actual voice acting. It's narration.
Per him, it sounds like he was suggested hey, you should audition for this game, and it sounds like he, as I think is pretty common for an actor auditioning for something like this, he read for pretty much every male role, and he did them in various cartoony voices based on what the character was. And when he got to Fox, who he knew was the lead, I think he just kind of assumed he would not get the role, and he read it in pretty much his normal speaking voice. And that's what they wanted. They wanted normality.
All right, well, job well done, then.
So, I think that's enough about Fox. Go on to Falco. How do you feel about Falco's look in this game?
I actually like it. I'm okay with it. I mean, it's... Again, I'm not the most normative Star Fox fan on the planet. Star Fox is my second favorite Nintendo franchise after Donkey Kong. And, of course, I consider it part of the DKU sometimes. And so, for me, Falco, my favorite Falco look is the way he looks in Star Fox Adventures. But,
I love that look. He looks like a Ninja Turtle action figure.
Like I said, this one just fits the whole, geared up, evolution, late season Super Sentai, we're in our new special metallic costume kind of look for
the cast. This looks like Falco as the pilot of the leg of a mecha.
Yeah.
That said, I think it is very appropriate for this like era Star Fox finds themselves in terms of like having to be this sort of armored up, ready for combat version of Falco. I really like his giant shoulder pads. I feel like that is a bit of like Falco's personality as like the show off of the Star Fox team bleeding through.
And plus, look, I'm a 90s kid, so I will never turn up my nose at big shoulder pads or excessive belts even on a character. I mean, that was just par for the course in the 90s for any new superhero or even addition to a long-running franchise like Dash Rendar in Star Wars. Yeah, but like,
yeah,
he looked cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
People sneer at it now, but...
And unlike Fox, I kind of like the shape language for his head in this game, and a lot of the renders of Falco are very fun for this game. There's a lot of like very cocky, like almost like I'm posing for a pinup like positioning of him. It's very funny.
Yeah.
In terms of his performance, this game casts Mike, I'm just going for how I assume, Mike Madoe as Falco. I did look up what these actors might sort of be known for in other projects, or at least things that they'd be known to me for. And I found some weird common overlap in a lot of these actors in what they had previously done. He was the second voice of Spy Fox in the various humongous entertainment adventure games that were designed for younger players.
Ah, yes, Spy Fox Adventures. I remember that one.
And relevant to DKU interests, he was the voice of Joe in Mario Golf.
No shit! I never knew that. That's awesome. Joe, another extremely cocky character who, was a little bit endearing.
So I am night and day on this performance, compared to Fox. I think this might be my favorite take on Falco.
It's really good. It's really good. He's got that kind of, Outer Burrows kind of, flourish to it.
This, like, very, like, broad New York accent he has,
yeah.
And and the very like kind of subdued performance. I think they're a perfect fit for Falco. He has like because Falco is an overconfident, full of himself shithead, and this gives him that energy.
Right, the loud, brash New Yorker is a stereotype for a reason, but it's very clearly, like, again, these are broad archetypes, these characters, and it's a fun way
he has some very, like, I'm walking here lines
yes.
as well, like, hey, yo, Fox, you think blasting me is fun or something?
Yeah, it's an easy way to communicate to somebody who maybe has never played a Star Fox game before exactly what Falco's all about. You just hear that voice and you get it.
So, Slippy, he's kind of outfitted himself in this, like, full-body, yellow mechanic-style jumpsuit. He's April O'Neil'd himself.
Which, yellow's my favorite color, and, I mean, come on, I was a Ninja Turtles kid. Of course, I kind of had a crush on April O'Neil. So, how am I feeling about Slippy in this game? It's a bit weird.
This is another one where I think... it's a departure, but it is kind of perfect for the role Slippy has within the team because, yeah, he's their engineer. He's their gadget guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be in a work jumpsuit.
And I do like that they have that individuality in this game, that they're all just not wearing flight suits or flight jackets, and that, of course, Slippy would think of himself more as the mechanic than the fighter pilot, and I like that he then just kind of expresses that with the way he dresses.
Yeah, and I also like that they've kind of color-coded the team. That's something we've kind of haven't really talked about yet, where, like, Fox, I think, is primarily green because of his jumpsuit. Falco is red. Slippy is wearing yellow. Krystal is wearing blue.
It's probably why I thought of the Super Sentai Power Ranger an analogy, because they do kind of, from a distance, just look like Power Rangers.
Which is really handy if you make a multiplayer game, but they just kind of give everybody different colors in multiplayer anyway.
Yeah.
Based on which controller you have plugged in.
Yeah.
A design element I like with Slippy in this game, this is the final Star Fox game where Slippy has frog eyes. And what I mean about that is, if you really look at Slippy's pupils in this game, they are not round. They are like kind of squared off and like encapsulated in a circle. And I feel like this is a really subtle, like, cool touch they had with Slippy. That still like it's not super, super noticeable. It's there if you pick up on it, but I feel like it doesn't make him look too alien to be cute, and I kind of wish they'd kept it around.
Yeah, I think cute, they're getting further away from cute as the years go on, but I do really like how Slippy looks here.
So, this version of Slippy is voiced by, I apologize if I mangle the skin, Mike McAuliffe, and there were very few other voice acting roles I could find, but one specific one made me go, oh yeah, that tracks, that just is the same voice. Was, he played the role of, he was in another Humongous Entertainment game. He was in the Freddy Fish series as Freddy's friend Luther in many, many games. And it is a very similar, like, nasally nerd voice.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations where I feel like the voice direction in this game kind of lands in, like, one of three categories. Either it's like pretty much got the same vibe that Star Fox 64 did. It's a wild swing, but it kind of works for me, and it's a wild swing, but it doesn't work for me. This is a pretty different take, but I feel like it still communicates the same, like, this is the naive child nerd of the team.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a really good fit for Slippy. I wouldn't have minded if this just became his permanent voice.
But what is permanence in the Star Fox series game?
Yeah. Yeah, I've liked other Slippies before and after, so. All right, we're getting to the main event for the DKU.
Yeah.
Near to the team. Let's talk about
Tricky.
Krystal.
Oh, sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
So here's the thing about Krystal's character design in this game. Setting aside the outfit, I feel like with every other character in this game, I can kind of tell you, I can perceive, yeah, Fox's head is shaped differently than it was in Adventures. Falco's pretty different looking. Slippy's a little different. I would be hard-pressed to tell you, aside from her outfit, any significant way this is different from how Krystal looked in Adventures. It's kind of dead on.
And I don't know if it's just because she had just been in Adventures, and Adventures was still so new, and she didn't have precedent before that, not counting earlier iterations of Dinosaur Planet. Like, from the rest of the cast, they have Star Fox 64, and before that, the original Star Fox to draw on.
She hasn't been present enough yet to experiment with.
Yeah, and that consistency I kind of like, because it kind of helps sell. It is the same character from Star Fox Adventures. It is the same character that Rare created, albeit sidelined a great deal from what was originally intended. And so, yeah, like, she's more covered up, I'll say, in this game than she is in Adventures.
It's more conservative, but still very much like, yeah, Miyamoto's getting his sexy space furry, all right. This is an outfit that does not leave much to the imagination.
Yeah, Miyamoto, kind of surprising how much of a dog he is. Like he's considered this very chaste, wholesome purveyor of family entertainment, and he's just like, oh man, I want a lust object in this game. You know what I mean? I want to blast off. It's weird to have this perspective of this very like genial figure from your childhood, like kind of wagging his tongue. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the character of Krystal, and I will say this much. I probably wouldn't like the character of Krystal if it wasn't for how Assault interpreted her character.
Yeah, they had to do a lot of legwork in this game, acknowledged in these interviews, to establish Krystal as a character, because let's be honest, I love Star Fox Adventures. There's not a lot of meat to Krystal's role in that game.
There isn't. She's there in the prologue. She's playable in the prologue. Of course, she was supposed to be the co-lead back when it was Dinosaur Planet, back when it was her and Saber. She was going to really have more of a role in the game. She was then just turned into basically the MacGuffin of the game. She was used... Spoilers for Star Fox Adventure. Sorry, everybody. She was used by Andross's ghost to channel the energy of the Krazoa to effectively recreate his body and re-enter properly the world of the living. And she was kind of used as bait for Fox. Sexy bait.
Yeah, redesigned heavily to be, like, very, very... like sexy. Let's like you can dissect the implications of that relative to how they actually treated her in the game.
Yeah.
I will say in Assault, I like how they kind of retain a lot of the like accessory jewelry she had in Adventures, but reinterpret it as a lot more sci-fi and like chrome silver. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very smart way to reconcile how kind of outside context she was in Adventures compared to the rest of the Star Fox universe.
Yeah, there's still a lot about Krystal's backstory that we're not clear on. Like, we know, like, it's implied that Andross, like, pulled off this experiment on her home planet and destroyed it, and she's, like, looking for answers. But it's really just kind of lost in the whole like Star Fox translation of the game, and of course she was going to have a completely different backstory with Dinosaur Planet, but yeah, it's one of those things where of course Salt's not going to spend time exploring that. It's just moving forward.
Jem says in the chat, there's not a lot of meat. That's all she is in the game, a slab of meat.
Just Andre here says Miyamoto wants to hit Krystal. And, you know, like, I think that...
Wants to hit Krystal +1. It's a Star Fox joke.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think that it's, I mean, let's be honest, like, Krystal was there. Krystal evolved into just... sex appeal. She's just there for obvious reasons, you know, the male gaze and whatnot. It was the early aughts. This was the era of booth babes at things like E3, which was being phased out when DK Vine started attending. I think the first couple E3s we went, there would still be a lot of that, and then by the end of E3, that was just nowhere to be seen.
I will at least concede that treatment of Krystal did give us the funniest David Wise song.
I mean, let's be honest, that's a banger, that sax riff. I mean, that is like the purest.
It's genuinely great. It's a little cynical how it's used, but I think it's a good tune.
That is the last thing we hear from a rare game on a Nintendo home console.
In the context of those credits, it feels weirdly bittersweet and moody, even though the in-game context is Fox got a boner.
I mean, yeah, Star Fox Adventures. You know, we talk about these melancholy endings. We talk about the ending of Donkey Kong Country 2, and how sad should Star Fox Adventures be, given that it is the end of the Nintendo Rare partnership? Like, just not counting their handheld releases after that, or even their partnership, limited as it may be in the modern day. But, you know, it should be this very, like, somber moment for the fans. But it does end on Fox. Oh, man, you got a hard on. Look at that. And Fox, oh. And it's just like, really? This is how? Okay, all right. Fair enough. But Krystal is, I don't want to say she's problematic, but she is ill-defined in Star Fox Adventures, even down to her, like, she's just wearing, like, stereotypical, like, tribal clothing, and you're like, what is this? Like, she's kind of, like, got the Na'vi thing going on years before James Cameron.
She's even blue.
She's even blue, right? I mean, there was a reason we were making Star Fox Adventures jokes when James Cameron's Avatar came out. But I like how they're able to kind of, I'll say, salvage Krystal in this game and make her an actual character.
Yeah. The Nintendo Dream interview, I want to come back to that because it is really pretty open about the fact that Adventures didn't really give them a lot to go off of for Krystal, but they were going to still, like, they saw the potential in the character. They want to make a good faith effort. I kind of just want to read this section of the interview verbatim because I feel like it speaks to a lot of what I appreciate that they tried to do with Krystal in Star Fox Assault, but also there's some unfortunate holes they fall into in this interview as well that I think also explains some of the shortcomings and kind of continued struggles to write Krystal as a character.
I think they were well aware of the holes they wanted to fall into.
Yeah, you get staff upgrades, if you know what I mean. That wasn't intended to be an innuendo, but I realized halfway through.
In whose end? All right, go on.
Imamura. We did argue a bit over Krystal's personality, though. Kobayashi, remembering. Yeah. There were some things we fought about. Imamura. The team was split into two camps. Those who wanted her to occupy a motherly role, and those who wanted her to be more like a big sister. Kobayashi. It was definitely a problem because she had only been in one game, and there wasn't much info about her character. Imamura. We actually had this problem on the adventure development, too, where her personality was too vague, and it caused tons of confusion amongst the team. Laughs. At that time, I put forth one request, that the vibe between Fox and Krystal should be good, but their relationship shouldn't be too straightforward or obvious, and we would leave the rest to the fans' imagination.
Wow.
Kobayashi. Yeah. Are you sure about that, actually? Kobayashi. We tried to reflect that in some of the scenes for Assault, too. Interviewer, so how did you settle on a personality for Krystal, then? Kobayashi. I think she ended up having a number of different elements. She's a bit mysterious, a bit of an elder sister, and in the sense that she has motherly kindness, too. There was a lot of fighting during the development about her dialogue. Krystal wouldn't say something like that. I can't really sum it up in one word, but over time a sort of shared Krystal sense grew among the entire staff with regard to what she should and shouldn't say, and gradually we trimmed down her dialogue and added things too, and the overall picture of Krystal you see today eventually came into view. After all that, we're really curious now to hear what players think of her. Oh boy, there is a real fraught bit in that.
Yeah.
I feel like the most tired thing that you encounter with writers who don't know how to write women is write them as a mother or an older sister.
Yeah, and people were less conscious of this back then as well.
I give them credit for trying. It is just very funny to look back on this in 2026.
Yes.
And realize how bad this sounds in a way that they didn't intend. And as a reminder, this motherly older sister figure to this team of largely men, she is younger than every single one of them.
I'm not sure, like, considering her the mother and then dressing her the way they did. You said fraud, but maybe Freud would be the better word.
I appreciate that they did try to develop Krystal as a character in this game. I think it's not perfect, but she really does feel a lot more no innuendo intended fleshed out than she did in Adventures, and I do feel like she does feel like a real part of this team.
Yes.
Which is important. I had seen some people take issue with, actually, Krystal's only been with the team for a year. Why is she a better pilot than Slippy? And to that I would say, one, we know Krystal knows how to fly a spaceship because she did at the end of Star Fox Adventures.
And it's implied
it's
implied she flew to Soria in the first place. Like,
the opening segment with the riding on the Cloud Runner is basically a semi-R-Wing tutorial.
Yes, and so, like, if you think about it for longer than 10 seconds, you'll realize, oh yeah, of course Krystal knows how to fly a little spaceship.
Right, and yeah, Andre in the chat says, answer because it's Slippy. Yeah, I think part of the joke is, well, not only the joke is that Slippy is just inexplicably a bad pilot. I think part of what people miss about Slippy is, I don't think he's a bad pilot because he's unskilled. I think he's a bad pilot because he has terrible instincts. Because a lot of the situations where you have to bail him out in Star Fox 64 and Assault itself are because Slippy broke formation, pulled ahead of the group, did something really rash on his own when he assumed there wasn't a threat, like when in Sector X when Spyborg swats him away to Titania. I think it's just okay for Krystal to have a little bit of a clearer head on her shoulders than Slippy.
Yeah. Well, it's also the thing, like, yeah, they kind of explain in the original Star Wars A New Hope that, you know, like Luke Skywalker flies spaceships, skyhoppers or something on Tatooine. But it's like, it does strain credibility that he can then jump into an X-Wing in this very critical moment for the Rebel Alliance and, like, fly into the assault on the Death Star and, of course, save the day. And you can say, well, yeah, he uses the Force. But all the same, that's a very high-stress situation you're just plucking this farm boy into. But then again, Krystal is also established in this game as a telepath. And she also has mysterious Force-like abilities that kind of hone her reflexes in a way that Slippy doesn't naturally have. So there you go. That's why she can do it.
Yeah, that's also an interesting thing about this game, is that it kind of assigns everyone a role on the team. And Krystal's is telepath. And I feel like this may not have been an explicitly outlined part of her character in Adventures, but I feel like it's a pretty fair interpretation of everything that happened surrounding Krystal in that game.
Yes.
She came to Soria because she got she came to where she was on Soria because she received a distress call. Andros traps her in a crystal for most of the game, specifically because she is an individual who can channel the spirit energies of the Krazoa. And we never see if this is tech-based or something else, but she can project pre-recorded messages through her magic staff.
Right.
And they do actually kind of live up to giving her that role in the game. She senses when Soria is under attack, and she's like tries to kind of read the thoughts of the Aperoids and can't make sense of them. Like she is kind of shown to be a bit of an empath, and it is actually pay off in the story.
I was gonna say, I just used Star Wars as an analogy, but I'm gonna go back to Star Trek for a second. She's kind of the Deanna Troi of the team, and she does actually provide. I know, like, we were just making fun of, like, oh, she's got to be a mother or a big sister,
mother or a sister, or mother or an older sister. She has to be the authority figure, keeping you in line.
Yeah, but she actually does provide. I think, and it might be like gender coded all the same, but I think it's an important aspect to bring to the team, or at least a fun, fresh little injection here where she can provide that empathetic point of view to what's happening, and it's not just all pew pew, let's get in there in our cockpits, pun intended.
I also like that it firmly plants mysticism as part of the Star Fox universe, which has kind of always been there because we had James's ghost, or was it, at the end of 64.
yeah
but it kind of like neatly connects it into all of the mysticism that was in Star Fox Adventures that's otherwise not all that prominent in the Star Fox series, and it kind of just like cements this was part of it. This is part of the fabric woven into this universe.
And again, I think it's part of why this does feel like an effective follow-up to Star Fox Adventures, while pulling back and reincorporating all the Star Fox bits that couldn't fit into Star Fox Adventures. And I think Krystal serving as that conduit, as that through line, really does work. It is effective. As a fan, going from one to the next, I don't feel put off, or I don't feel like, oh, this doesn't really work. This doesn't feel like it's the same world. This doesn't feel like it's the same solar system. These don't feel like the same characters. No, I can completely buy that this is a year later.
Yeah. So, Krystal's voice actor in this game is Alicia Glidewell. She's other characters known to the DKU because she is the voice of Zero Suit Samus and Knuckle Joe in Smash Brothers. And outside the DKU, I knew her as the second voice of Carmelita Fox in the Sly Cooper games. A character that seems to get recast every single game, and I'm not sure whether it's a joke or not. But she's also an actor who's been seen by a lot of people because she was the likeness model for Chell in Valve's Portal games.
Mm.
I think of this entire voice cast, she is the closest match to her previous actor.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she retains Estelle Ellis's British accent. It is a put on because Glidewell is Hawaiian, but it just feels like a concentrated effort to keep that part of the character around, which I like because it firmly locks in her origins as a rare character.
Absolutely,
that she has stayed British. And I kind of also I have nothing to back this up, but I have kind of a theory as to why she's the closest performance to one that came before. Which is Star Fox Adventures never got a Japanese dub. It released in Japan with subtitles over its English voice acting. Maybe because the game was developed on such a tight timeline that they just couldn't. So I could see maybe if the casting director for this game was mindful of trying to voice match based on the Japanese performers, well, Krystal is the original quote-unquote Japanese voice for Krystal.
Right. And also, again, Krystal is the newest character, the newest addition to the team, prominently so. And so I think it just really allowed for less variances, lest it not really feel like Krystal. Whereas, you've already had so many kind of reinventions of the other characters, so it makes sense that they would try to preserve how she was in Adventures as much as possible.
Yeah, and I also felt this was relevant to bring up mentioning her actor, because I remember she kind of accidentally caused a stir around the pre-release period of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, because her promotional website advertising her voice acting accidentally let slip that Krystal was in the game.
Oh, God, that's right. I've completely memory hold that. That really was something we glommed onto. We were like, oh, we're going to get another DKU character in Smash Brothers. It's going to be Krystal. She's going to be in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, importantly, this did not say what context she was in the game. So even though it ended up just being the Easter egg conversations on the Star Fox stage in that game, people did kind of get hyped for a little bit of like, oh man, is Krystal going to be a playable character in Smash?
Oh, and that was really the window of time to do it. Like the only window of time where
it's kind of the only time they could have.
Yeah, I mean, she got into Smash as an assist trophy and Ultimate, and I'm glad she's there, but it was kind of like the obvious character during the era leading into Brawl, like Diddy for Donkey Kong, which we did get, and then Krystal for Star Fox. Those were the ones we were really hoping for. K. Rool was kind of more of an outside hope, only really brought about because of all the villains that we're getting in from other franchises. And we're like, well, maybe K. Rool. That's where really the kernel of that idea was first planted. But yeah, Krystal, I would say, was the most prominent character we were hoping for other than Diddy, and boy, yeah, that went up in smoke.
So, still part of the Star Fox team, still alive and kicking. Peppy Hare. I feel like, notably, he's the only one in the team who has kind of kept the aesthetics of the original look for the Star Fox team. He's still got the gray jacket. He's still got the jumpsuit. And yeah, it does just kind of feel like, well, he kept his old outfit because he's old and because he is retired from active duty.
He's not in the field anymore. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you don't need to waste any of these advances on him. He's just going to be sitting on the Great Fox. And, I like that. I like that he's just peppy, and
yeah,
it kind of makes sense because he is the last remaining link to the original Star Fox, the original Team Star Fox, with James McCloud and Pigma, and yeah, he kind of still has that look about him.
Yeah, he is. He's rocking quite the stash in this game. I feel like Adventures kind of gave him one, and this has gotten extreme.
Yeah, but again, I don't really mind.
I do like this look.
He still feels like one of the most faithful translations in this game visually, other than Krystal. And yeah, how old is Peppy supposed to be, Cameron?
I always forget this, but I know, like, every time I look it up, it's way younger than I think it's going to be. Which is, like...
He's kind of like Schrodinger's hair, where sometimes he's just, like, in his mid-40s, or maybe early 50s. Other times he's, like, decrepit. And...
It feels like... At a certain point, they just kind of lean into... Like, I'm an old man, I can barely move, I can barely speak, my mind's going.
Is it because of the southern accent in Star Fox 64, it made him, it coded him as far older than he was actually supposed to be, because we're all hearing, like, grizzled old prospector?
I think Chris Seaver's voice in Adventures certainly quoted him as very old.
Which again, when you go back and listen to that, it's just like Chris Seaver's just doing a bad fur day voice, like just this rando, weird bad fur day character. Don't piss on me, please. And it's just, it's just like, I can't hear Chris Seaver in Star Fox Adventures without cracking up now.
Oh, by the way, I did look it up. So his age in Star Fox Adventures was 49. So he's 50 here. I feel like that feels a little bit young to be this mean about him being old. Some of these games are.
When you're a kid, anybody over 30 is ancient. Now that I am in my early 40s, I don't like this. I'm like, no, I don't want to be older than Peppy in a decade. Fuck that.
I think it's also just I've had to get used to the concept of how people age has drifted.
Yes, that is also
when
true.
I'm like say regularly seeing like A-list celebrities in their 70s playing MCU action heroes.
Yeah.
Like it really offsets your idea of what is too old.
Even in things like
just seeing a man barely out of his 40s treated like this is very funny.
Well, even in things like professional wrestling, like in the 90s, the ones that were considered old and ancient, your Hulk Hogan's, your Randy Savages, they were all in their like mid 40s, and that is basically like the standard age of a main event wrestler these days. Because just people are aging a lot more gracefully when they're not doing shit like tanning every single week or taking all of the drugs known to man. And sports medicine has also improved a great deal. So yeah, like what we considered old back then has dramatically shifted in the modern day because people are aging far more gracefully. So we shouldn't feel as bad about it. It's the Lilat system. We actually don't know what aging looks like.
Also, yeah, Peppy is a combat vet. I think that probably aged him prematurely.
Yeah.
He's seen some shit. He's played in this game by Henry Dardenne. I couldn't really find a lot of familiar parts of his other than this game worth noting here. I feel like this Peppy kind of drops the southern accent a lot and tones down the like teetering on death rasp of Peppy in Adventures. The vibe I get from Peppy in this game is that he's like kind of a tired but wise old mentor. He feels very low energy.
Jeb.
Yeah, sleepy Peppy hair.
Please clap for Peppy, everyone.
And then, still a member of the Star Fox team. Adventures established this. He is a member. We have the one, the only Rob64.
Yeah. And Rob, I feel like his role is less defined in this game because Peppy has moved to the Great Fox. Rob is basically Peppy's
He no
plus
longer
one.
has to be mission control.
Yeah. Rob is basically Peppy's sidekick now. But I don't feel
like it's a funny dynamic for them.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't mind it honestly, and I'm glad that like they each have each other on the Great Fox. He's gotten his upgrades though. He's not falling apart anymore. He doesn't have the NU-64 printed on his chest like he did in Star Fox Adventures. He's got a whole new outer casing.
Yeah. It reads, I guess he was always sort of this, but it reads very yellow in this game. Like he's an old Nintendo Entertainment System. Like he's very 80s robot coded to me. I do like the design though.
Yeah.
It's very different, but I feel like I have a hard time feeling very strongly about Rob64's design changing up because he's a robot. They do that.
I think the yellow, as opposed to a more like chromium, helps keep him visually distinct from the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica, which was just like back the remake was just like really hot at this time, so it's probably a good thing that we weren't thinking that.
Also, the Great Fox in this game is very, very shiny and white, and Peppy's eyes aren't what they used to be. He doesn't need to get lost. He's played in this game by Dex Manley. He's also in Smash as the voice of Saki from Sin and Punishment. Their assist trophy. He wasn't the original character voice. He's in a lot of Humongous Entertainment games. In their Backyard Sports series, he plays a lot of children, including, I know this has no importance to this podcast, but he plays, for anybody who is familiar with those games, he a lot of the time has been the character Pablo Sanchez, who the entire, like, joke of that character is, in these games, the select screen is a like lineup of kids. You're picking teams like a grade school child. And Pablo is the unassuming, very, very short, very, very pudgy, only speaks Spanish, child among a group of like very tall, lanky, sometimes like professional athlete as children characters. The joke is that his stats are like unreal. He's like hands down the best actual athlete in the game. It's kind of a teachable moment for the children playing these games to not make assumptions based on appearance.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the sub-in voice for Peppy and Falco. And, well, yeah, he sounds like a robot, all right. That's my opinion of the way Rob sounds in this game.
Yeah.
I can't really feel strongly one way or the other.
I'm glad he's still there. I'm glad, they didn't just forget about him. I'm glad he's still part of the team. I've always liked him, even going back to Star Fox 64. So, yeah.
I think it is a very fun choice that they have even in the Star Fox games that advance the timeline, they have never upgraded Rob beyond Rob 64. He is locked in time as Rob 64.
He didn't become the Rob Cube or anything stupid like that. The Rob U.
No, becoming a cube happened to a different character, but we'll get to that in a future spotlight, I think. So, getting into just like, okay, we talked about the characters. Let's break down into some of the like general other qualities of this game. I'll start with the visuals, which you've already kind of touched on. Just the overarching aesthetic philosophy of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very, very different from what came before and very unique to this game. Part of what I appreciate about Star Fox in this era is it feeling like a passa story.
Yes,
or like feeling like when a superhero comic, like one creative team leaves and another one takes over, you get a new artist, you get a new writer, and it all feels, again, it's eras.
Yeah.
And this is in the more meta sense of that.
Even knowing how much of a hand Nintendo actually, had controlling everything, it kind of reminds me of going back to a comic book from my childhood, the way the Superman books would kind of do it in the 90s, where they would all be telling this one, like, story, but each issue would be a different comic each week, and so they would have different creative teams, so you would have that different voice. Even though it was telling, like, one continuous story, each writer and each artist would bring their own kind of flair to the world, and that's very much what these three Star Fox games that I call the Dinosaur Planet trilogy really do feel like that, and they all have their own flavor and their own kind of style, but it never feels inconsistent from the other two.
You can always, it's always very different, but you can mentally reconcile the ways that it's different.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same Star Fox filtered through a different lens.
And I think having 3 Star Fox games in such close proximity and release, it's a very unique circumstance we had. We didn't realize how good we actually had it.
Yeah. I was shocked looking back up, like, how soon Command happened after this game. Yeah. Mentally, I put it so far apart from this, and it's...
For as much as we reviled the buyout era at the time, you look at the games list on DK Vine's website from 2003 to 2008, and how utterly loaded it was with everything. Donkey Kong, Star Fox, Banjo, Conquer. It was just...
it was shockingly loaded, even though we were constantly complaining all the time about not getting games.
I mean, we didn't have something to anchor it all like Bonanza. Right. You know, that was the big difference. But I am nostalgic for that era now. That era I hated living through. And part of that is just how good every corner of the DKU was treated, with, you know, some arguments to be had, and like there was no like huge Donkey Kong game to really continue the popularity. But Star Fox, it was the best time to be a Star Fox fan for sure.
Yeah. So if I had to like sum up the aesthetic of this game, I feel like I would use the words clean and slick. I think this is the most solidly futuristic, like utopian futuristic, and a Star Fox game has ever tried to look to date. It feels, in the way that Adventures felt very Star Wars, this feels very Star Trek to me. Again, as I said before, it feels like Star Fox were just flush with cash. Yeah. After the Saurian mission.
Because here's the thing, there was, 7 years between the events of Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Adventures, so we assume they got a huge payday. I mean, that was kind of part of it.
Yeah.
But we don't see how they actually spent that cash, and like the effects of the years going by, and how great of a toll that took on all their gear and hardware, and... Now this is just picking up so close to Star Fox Adventures, and everything is just refurbished, and it's got that like glint to it.
It's almost comical to go from, well, I mean, not almost. It is funny. It's funny to go from Star Fox Adventures, where like the descriptor tag on the R-Wing has seen better days. Fox is clearly using what he has and running it into the ground until he has enough money to have Slippy make repairs or replace his equipment. Everything's kind of falling apart. It's pretty clear this R-Wing is all Fox has got.
Yeah.
And then in this game, we have brand new, really striking looking R-Wings and Landmasters, and like in gameplay and in story, the treatment of the R-Wings and the Landmasters pretty much... Oh, it blew up. Would you like another one?
Yeah, right.
The R-Wings and Landmasters in this game, they're very different from how they looked in 64, but I think they are very cool looking. They're very sharp, and I think they look very mechanically complex and like sleek.
Yeah. I love all the designs of this game. Like, I really have no qualms, and I've never been a real, like, tech guy when it comes to things like Star Wars. Like, again, I'm character. Characters are my bread and butter. I love following their stories and their evolution, especially in Star Fox, especially in this era. And so I kind of have a blind spot to things like ships and, like, this model of X-Wing. I don't care about that. So all I'll say, or all I can say about the R-Wings and Landmasters and the way the Great Fox looks in this game is it's very shiny, and I dig it. It really stands out from the landscapes in this game.
Yeah. And again, it's this represents a moment in time for the Star Fox game, Star Fox team. Whether or not these are my favorite designs, it's oh, this is what they look like during this time.
It's an era, yeah.
During a boon period for the Star Fox team, as like where they just like completely renovate the Great Fox as opposed to it barely limping along in Star Fox Adventures, full of discarded pizza boxes and a sleazy pinup calendar.
Which, how much of the lack of filth and like frat house sundries in the Great Fox, how much is that due to the refurbishment that it's clearly undergone, or how much of that is due to Krystal now being there?
I like, not to play into gender stereotypes, but I do have to wonder if when Krystal walked into the bridge of the Great Fox, was he just instantly overwhelmed with the shame of the state of that room?
It's like, Slippy, please hide your cum sock. We have a lady here now. We can't be living like this.
Damn, Slip, you live like this?
The utter shock of when I take Pauline into DK's treehouse in Bonanza, and I'm just like, yeah, don't look at that over there, Paul. Please, we're gonna go to the closet. Do not open your eyes until we're out.
So they do talk about this in the Nintendo Dream interview, about how much of a stylistic departure this is, how the machinery in this game looks, and they openly acknowledge this is heavily inspired by mech anime.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, they kind of, like, without naming them, call out there were several ship designers in this game, but I think the one they meant who is credited with designing the Cornerian ships is Masaki Imai, as specifically being like heavily mech anime influenced. As part of the interview, Nakanishi just says the phrase out loud, "Everybody loves Gundam." And yeah, that fits, and it is also Gundam is just woven, and like piloted mechs are woven into the DNA of Star Fox even before this. That is just that's what the boss of Sector Y is in Star Fox 64.
Yeah. Even as somebody who is not an anime kid, who isn't into mech, or Gundam stuff, I still could see the influence, and it's at this point it's so saturated, it's so seeped into pop culture and just the general like international osmosis of everything that it's something that can be picked up on even if you're not consciously recognizing it. So I think even playing this back in 2005, I recognize those influences, even if I couldn't articulate them. And I think it works for Star Fox. Like you said, it has been part of the DNA. And leaning into that, for having the heroes actually having a bit of that as well, it's a fun little way to show how much they've upgraded, especially in comparison to like how heavily fortified Andross's forces were in Star Fox 64. It's like now Star Fox has a bit of that bling as well.
So we talked about the look. I'll also say the UI in this game, and also like by extension the sort of tech in universe it represents, a lot of holo displays, a lot of glowing things. It's very striking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So going past the visuals, going to how the game sounds. I've already talked probably too much about the voice acting. I guess the only other thing I would say about that is, in my research, I was kind of struck by this. I kind of assumed, I'm used to this happening with a lot of video game series I follow, where I see that the English voice cast constantly rotates, and the Japanese cast has just been the same for 30 plus years.
Right.
I was shocked to find that hasn't been the case for Star Fox. In kind of a reversal, almost, of what happened with the English voice cast. it turns out Star Fox Assault was actually the last time a lot of the Star Fox 64 actors ever played their original roles. Star Fox 64 3D in Japan fully rebooted the cast.
Wow.
Not only that, but some roles within Assault itself were recast in Japan. But looking at where it happened, it seems like the thought was they were recasting actors who had doubled up on characters. So, for instance, in Japan, Fox, just like us, has a completely new voice actor. But his original voice actor was also the voice of Leon, and he stays on as Leon.
Congratulations, you're no longer the lead, but you still get to play Leon.
Yeah, there were a lot of other cases like that, but I found that interesting because something I really appreciated about Star Fox 64 3D was, wow, they really got as many of the original Star Fox 64 voice actors back as they practically could, and that wasn't what Japan did. In terms of moving on from voice acting, the sound design in this game, I'll be honest, I feel like personally this is a weaker area of the game for me relative to some other Star Fox games. I feel like a lot of the sound effects in this game lack the oomph of impact that the equivalent ones did in Star Fox 64. I mean, how do you feel about it, Hyle?
I'll agree with that. I think it's probably something I've never really thought about because it doesn't really stand out, and sometimes that's good. But I think you're right, like when you're comparing it to other Star Fox games on either end of it, it's definitely just muted a little bit. I don't know.
It feels weightless to me sometimes, which, granted, sometimes they're in space. I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like when something explodes in Star Fox 64, even if you don't have the rumble pack, you feel it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can say that for everything in Assault.
It's probably one of the weaker areas of the game for sure.
It's not a deal breaker, but I do feel like it is a little weak.
I could make justifications for it. I could be like, it's the sound of this world is being drowned out by the chittering of the aperoids slowly consuming everything. But sometimes, sometimes things just don't come together.
In fairness, I also think part of it could have been a content rating concern, because you shouldn't be too horrified by things getting shot in a third-person Star Fox shooter.
Yeah. That is true. This game does have to kind of straddle the line there with the violence.
It's a weird line to walk where you have to give Fox McCloud a Gatling gun that he can shoot other members of his team with in the multiplayer and have it come off more funny than horrifying.
Yeah. It's funny because I never really thought about all the murders that they're committing. Granted, it's war, yeah, whatever, but they are killing lots of people in Star Fox 64. And, Adventures kind of gets around it because he just has a magic staff and, he's probably just knocking them out. But in this game, we have the insects, yes, the aperoids, so you kind of skirt around some of the violence, or at least it's not coded as violent to those who don't value, the life of bugs as much. But then again, there are still a lot of just residents
Starship Troopers.
Yeah. I was thinking that, but there are a lot of residents of the Lilat system. You are the intro to the game. You are fighting, Andrew's forces, and then as the game progresses, the aperoids are aperoiding, I believe is the correct term, various people in the Lilat system, so you're still like killing folks.
Yeah, I do think they give themselves a little bit of an out in this game, that it establishes the concept of people can apparently abandon ship.
Oh yeah,
with their space fighters. So you might kind of have the out of like, oh, they're like, oh, I see their parachutes just off screen. They're okay. But certainly at face value, there is a lot of death.
Don't worry, their airbags did deploy on the way down.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Swanky Kong getting in his horrible wreck in the Mario movie and just seeing +1 appear over him.
I still like the amount of people who, we were making jokes about Swanky died. Obviously, he's not dead, but we were making
they wouldn't do that.
We were making
it's
jokes.
It's just funny to say it.
But we were making jokes, and so many people were like, well, he's not dead because we can see his body. And I'm like, that doesn't mean he's alive.
No, you see Mufasa's body in The Lion King. He's not alive.
Generally, there are remains left at any car crash.
So, finally, the final thing I want to talk about, the sound of this game, the music. So, this game has a lot of arranged music in addition to original music. I feel like, there are a few original tracks, completely original compositions in the single player. I feel like most of the totally original music is in the multiplayer. The composer credits for this game they're attributed to Yoshinori Kawamoto, whose credits I could find included Klonoa Beach Volleyball, Klonoa Heroes, and Splatterhouse. And Yoshi Arakawa co-credited for Tekken and one of 3 on the sound staff for Mario Kart Arcade GP. There's the DKU relevance.
Take a drink, everyone.
And the single-player soundtrack for this game is, I'd say, very arrangement-heavy. You hear a lot of compositions retained from Star Fox 64 that have been arranged and complemented by new music. Kind of like how Retro Studios handled Donkey Kong Country Returns. However, a big difference I feel from the soundtrack, a big difference maker from the soundtrack of Returns and this game is that Assault's soundtrack is performed by the Tokyo New City Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And you really feel it. There's a lot of this music that feels like it is being performed in a physical space. And a lot of it is arranged in a way that sounds a bit more slow and deliberate to account for the practicality of having to perform it. Kind of similar to how Robin Beanland ran into with Conquer Live and Reloaded, that there were some parts of his songs that he sequenced that you just aren't physically possible with real instrumentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said again, part of the fun of this series is watching it pass through a bunch of different creatives and seeing them put their first personal stamp on it. I feel like this is just the most correct way for a traditional Star Fox game to sound. Yeah. I love the soundtrack in this game.
It's really good, and it's like apples and oranges coming off of Star Fox Adventures, because Star Fox Adventures have that classic David Wise soundtrack, but it's a very different type of thing that it's doing. Like, this is all action-oriented. It's, pumping up the adrenaline, making you feel the intensity of the situation. Star Fox Adventures, I've often said it's one of the best Donkey Kong soundtracks that's ever been composed, because so many of those songs would be right at home in a DKC or a 3D Donkey Kong game. So, like, coming into this, like, this is one of the areas where I didn't have that expectation or even desire to see the same kind of thing replicated. And yeah, I really like the soundtrack. It's great.
So then, after that, I guess we get into the real meat and potatoes, the gameplay.
Yeah. So, I often say, Cameron, that this is my favorite traditional Star Fox game, which I do understand is a misnomer, because there are only...
What is tradition in
the
Star Fox series, aside from one?
I think traditional Star Fox game, people usually think Star Fox 64, okay? But there are really only 3 missions in this game that hew to that formula.
Yep, the very first one, and generously 2 others.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
I feel like the last one, it is an on-rails R-Wing level, but there's some stuff to it.
We can talk about that on part 2.
Yep. I'll describe the gameplay. We'll get into how it actually shakes out in practice in part 2.
Yeah.
So you have the on-rails R-Wing levels, which are very familiarly the model of Star Fox 64's.
Yeah.
All on-rails levels. And you have the all-range levels. And if you're familiar with what that is in Star Fox 64, I think you might be underprepared for how this game handles them.
Yeah, because Star Fox 64, it's basically, we're going into all-range mode, and it's for these very, like, smaller, cultivated sequences.
Usually, well, you have complete freedom of movement with the R-Wing. It is usually in what is essentially an invisible dome.
Yeah, and it's for specific battles or set pieces, but it is very confined, and I don't think anybody going from that to this would be prepared for the expansive possibilities in these all-range levels.
Yeah, so these just make up the bulk of the game. They kind of are the game. A little bit like Adventures, the on-rails R-Wing levels are something that came later.
Oh, I will say, though, they're not much... They're not much of a tossed-off afterthought in this game.
Oh, no, not at all.
In Adventures, I understand the intent, and I understand why they did it. But they're clearly just, like...
Oh, no, they... Like, I don't mean to sound derisive of the on-rails R-Wing levels in this game, because they are putting their full slippy into all of these.
Yeah. In Adventures, it feels very much like, oh, we forgot to do our homework. Let's do it on the bus en route to school. And these are very much like fully fleshed out classics.
Very full of unique set pieces.
Yeah.
Very flashy. Genuinely visually impressive too.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun, and they should actually satisfy the urges of any Star Fox purist, I would say.
Yeah, so the all-range levels, owing to kind of their origins as being built off of the multiplayer's game design with an emphasis on vehicle switching, with one exception, they all involve some sort of combination of on-foot third-person shooting, using the Landmaster, which can now navigate in any direction. It's not on rails. Using the R-Wing, or all of the above.
Yes. What a shock this was. Like, I knew that this was what they were doing before I picked up the game, but I think especially in 2005, what a shock it was going from that first mission to that second mission, it's the biggest amount of like whiplash I've gotten once I realized what a game actually is. And I think it was my biggest stumbling block back upon release versus when I replayed it in 2011 with like the mindset of knowing what to expect and kind of being suitably impressed with what they actually did.
Yeah, it took me so long to accept the terms that this is what the game is, because like a lot of people, I went in expecting it to be like Star Fox 64, where the on-rails levels are the meat and potatoes, and anything else is a fun little diversion or deviation from that. This is the main gameplay. That said, I remember in the lead up to this game, I was so excited to see the Landmaster again. Macbeth is one of, if not my favorite stage in Star Fox 64. So I was just excited to see it used again, and it in a new and exciting way.
Yeah, like I remember really liking the Landmaster, but okay, again, I am not your typical Star Fox fan. So for me, what I was most excited about was the on-foot stuff. okay, let me explain though. Let me explain.
I was absolutely excited for that too.
Yeah. I mean, you're more open-minded, I would say, when it comes to shocking opinions about cherished Nintendo IPs. Just because you're part of the DK Vine staff, so you have been weaned on it. But like for me, that was one of the things I really wanted in Star Fox 64, and why I'll never unlock that like multiplayer treat of seeing them on foot was so tantalizing to me, because again, I'm more of a character person. I'm more into like the fleshy and furry meat chunks inside all of these cool vehicles. I was never a train kid growing up. I never cared for any of that stuff. So for me, I just wanted to spend more time as Fox or Falco or Slippy or Peppy or now Krystal. And yeah, I felt like Star Fox Adventures, of course, you spend a lot of time as Fox, but it's a different experience. It is an adventure game. It is a Zelda-style game through the prism of Rare. And so getting to actually have my on-foot like missions and combat in this game like I imagined in Star Fox 64, that was the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, I was definitely excited to play as the Star Fox team on foot, and I think a big part of the appeal for me was like you. For years, I did not unlock the on-foot multiplayer mode, and even if I had, I didn't have anybody to play it with. So from my perspective, what I was excited about was, we are going to marry how cool it felt to play as Fox on foot in Adventures with a more traditionally Star Fox style of objectives and combat and gameplay. That said, if you are coming at this game, you have like not seen how it works in the trailers or the trade shows. You are coming at this game from Star Fox Adventures, knowing how Fox functions in that game. It will be very, very jarring, and it certainly was for me, because the on-foot movement in this game, in a way that facilitates its game design, is very, very strange and often very, very funny.
Yeah, I would recommend for anybody maybe marathoning all the Star Fox games before the new game comes out in June. Maybe give yourself some buffer time between adventures and Assault. Don't play them like right after one. Like, take yourself out of the game for 2 or 3 days. Reset your brain. Reboot your muscle memory, and then pick up Assault, because you're gonna be stumbling a little bit.
I feel like this is similarly to when people talk about going from a Mario Kart game to an F-Zero game.
Yeah.
Because I remember the moment I got control of Fox in this game as a much younger person on foot, and my first reaction was, holy shit, is he fast?
They can afford all of those energy drinks now. They have the Soria payday. We know in the new game, in the renders, they're all chugging energy drinks. So clearly, I mean, that's part of the lore. That's part of the canon.
Yeah, it is just woven into the fabric of Star Fox that they live like 20-something roomies subsisting on unhealthy garbage.
Yeah, monsters and those like coffee
some kind of demons. Run they run incredibly swiftly. They jump very, very high, and this comes off very, very jarring and goofy looking, I think, when you see it in the isolation of the single player, but the more I sat with the game, I realized, it has to move like this because of the way it has to facilitate the rest of the game design, because if the entire conceit that formed this game was the ability to swap between being on foot, getting in a flying machine, or getting in a tank, you can't just have someone on foot be at an immense disadvantage, even more so than they are framed in this game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you put them in a giant labyrinthian map that also has to be navigable by the Landmaster and the R-Wing without feeling small.
Right. It's a concession that's made that I think serves the gameplay well. You just have to get over it, really. I mean, it looks ridiculous. It might feel ridiculous at first, but it actually does serve a purpose.
So, I've talked about the structure of the levels themselves. Here's something I feel like I didn't really give the game its due for back in the day until I revisited it much later. The scoring system and difficulty levels and like medal system.
Yeah.
And I feel like it makes sense that I really kind of let the depth of this pass me by my first time through this game, because it isn't something that's really expressly tutorialized to you the way that, say, like Peppy telling you to do a barrel roll to dodge enemy fire is. But once you comprehend how it works, you kind of see, everything in the game is reminding you how you're engaging with this at every second.
Right.
So to kind of try and summarize it best I can, the scoring system in this game works differently between the on-rails R-Wing levels and the all-range levels. In the on-rails R-Wing levels, as few as there are, it's very similar to Star Fox 64, but also significantly different. In that, yes, you are scored based on the enemies you shoot down. And in Star Fox 64, the way you get bonus points is by using a charged homing shot to destroy multiple enemies with a single shot. And it's really the only way you're going to earn medals in that game. The hit bonuses work a little bit differently in Assault because it adds the mechanic of not only giving you a hit bonus if you take out more than take out a group of enemies with the same bomb, but Star Fox Assault defines enemies into enemy formations, and you get a 10 plus hit bonus anytime you take out a group of enemies that are defined as one group or one enemy wave.
Right.
And I was kind of blown away by this, but I actually prefer this scoring system to Star Fox 64's.
Yeah, I agree. Star Fox 64, I never really bothered to care about any of it. I just wanted to get through it, right? I just wanted to get through each mission, try to explore each route, but I never cared about the scoring. Never bothered me. This game, I really tried to hone my skills to get good at it, to understand the flow of it all, so I could, score the best medals, and it really did actually click with me in a way that I don't think Star Fox 64 ever did.
Yeah, the thing specifically that I like about it over Star Fox 64's scoring system is because Star Fox 64's scoring system works the way it does, where the key thing it incentivizes is taking out a group of enemies with a single shot, it means that often the smart thing to do is just always be charging your homing laser. In Star Fox Assault, sometimes a group of enemies in the same wave will come on screen, and they'll be split between the four corners of the screen. There's no way you're taking them out with one bullet. So I feel like you actually have to engage more with the rapid fire lasers, and it kind of varies up your strategy a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't, I think just mindlessly spamming like you do in Star Fox 64, and you actually feel a little bit more in the moments and present throughout the missions. And so maybe I'm just saying this because it's DKU and I actually was more invested in the cast by this point after the plight of Saria. But yeah, I wanted to actually get good at this game rather than just, get to the big story sequences.
Yeah, I think the game only gets better the more you engage with its systems like this. That said, scoring in all range levels not only works differently from Star Fox 64, but works differently from the on-rails levels.
Right.
So you don't really boost your score by taking down enemies in formations because there aren't any. You're in open fields and buildings that the bad guys and targets are just sort of around. Instead, how you boost your score is by consistently maintaining a combo meter. This is something weirdly present in the DKU on the GameCube. That rewards you with a greater bonus. The more targets you can shoot down in quick enough succession to keep your combo going. And it kind of means that if you are going for the medals, most of these levels become a sort of juggling act.
Yeah.
Where you have to comprehensively shoot as many targets as you can, but also pace them out long enough to avoid letting your combo meter drop, and kind of learn the layout of each level to suss out where enemies are going to spawn in, where your primary targets for the missions are, so you can also destroy them to keep your combo meter going, because they generally count as more than one hit, but you also don't want to end the main objective of the level too quickly before you've got enough points.
Yeah,
but it also will penalize you if you take too long in the level and just try to farm combos, because each level also awards or subtracts a time bonus.
right. Like, you're not going to just waltz into this game and master it right away. It requires a lot of practice, a lot of diligence, a lot of trial and error before you, like, realize the best way to go about things. And a large part of that is just learning the layout of these all-range missions. And they can be huge. You will get lost, you will get turned around, and that's just part of the process. That's part of the game, is just learning through making mistakes.
Yeah, it is one of the more arcadey Nintendo games. / Namco, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so in both versions of the levels, you also get you earn a medal for keeping all of your teammates alive through the whole mission. This kind of replaces the mechanic in Star Fox 64 where if you let one of your teammates get shot down, they would disappear for the remainder of that mission and also be absent from the next mission while they recovered.
Mm-hmm.
This game, again, singular linear level structure, linear plot. It has to be able to keep these characters around so they do not disappear if they get shot down in one mission. They don't disappear in the next. I like how forgiving this is. For one thing, the structure of these is you don't necessarily have to earn every medal or side objective in one go, which is great because when you're trying for the gold medal, sometimes it is really hard to keep these people alive.
Yes. Yeah. Although, I would always want to prioritize, keeping them alive. And that would be the thing I would most intensely focus on, is how well my teammates were doing.
Yeah.
And it can get frantic. It can get intense at times when you're in the thick of it.
With one exception, what I would usually do is, for the gold medal challenges, I would figure out how to pace out my combo meter, because I could I'd play the level enough to kind of know when my teammates were about to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd pace myself to make sure I had a high combo going so I would then have enough time to go help them.
Yeah.
Also, a nice change in service of this from Star Fox 64. Characters will comment if you shoot them, like your teammates. They will comment if you engage in friendly fire. They don't take any damage from it.
Which is probably good. Not as realistic, but maybe that's part of their upgrades. Maybe they installed some sort of friendly fire dampener on the R-Wings, and, I don't know.
It doesn't really make sense from a narrative standpoint, but with how frenetic the pacing is of this game, I really appreciate that they made that change.
There's so much going on. There's just almost too much to juggle at times, and part of that is the game, that crisis management. And yeah, adding one more element might have broken my brain. So I am thankful for it, even if, it doesn't make as much sense. I think from an on-rails perspective, friendly fire makes more sense because, it's just very linear progression. But in the all-range missions, no thanks. No, that would be a bit too much.
Especially because in a lot of the all-range missions, when your teammates ask for help, you are often not in the R-Wing. You are either on foot or in the Landmaster, and kind of have to figure out how to reconcile that.
Yeah. It's a good thing the characters can move so fast, huh?
Yep. And then last thing I want to touch on before we take a break. And kind of, I think, the marquee part of this game, even for people who are a little cold on the rest of it, the multiplayer.
Yeah. You don't want to talk about special flags, Cameron? I wanted to talk about the special flags.
Oh yeah, special flags. Let's backpedal a little bit. I forgot about the special flags. Maybe that's because a lot of the time they are completely invisible.
Yeah. So, I love this sort of thing in a game, right? This was actually my first introduction to this concept of the Namco special flag, but it has a long history independent of Star Fox Assault.
Yeah. So, these are not an original creation for this game. They are a very common staple of Namco's games, especially like their more arcadey ones. They first appeared in Rally X, but they've been in an absolute ton of things they've developed, including another place people might know them from, their Super Smash Brothers games.
Right. And it's funny because, the ones I'm most familiar with, of course, are this one and the Super Smash Brothers games that Namco had a hand in. And so, for me, in those Super Smash Brothers games, the special flags are just a Star Fox Assault reference. Which Star Fox Assault actually gets referenced quite a bit in Smash, all things considered. So it just feels right at home. It feels like it's a piece. And I'm like, oh yeah, Star Fox Assault reference, ignoring the true history of the special flags. But, in my headcanon, it's like, what are these flags with an S on them in the context of the Lilat system? Why are these a thing? And I always just viewed it, or I guess I rationalized it in my head as this is a special kind of trinket amongst the many mercenaries of the Lilat system.
Yeah.
This is just a kind of a badge of honor that's traded back and forth. Oh, I've got this many S flags on me. I
really appreciate this as something that Nintendo allowed Namco, because they were so integral to this game, to have as a personal stamp.
Yeah.
Within their Star Fox game. Kind of like Rare stamping their logo everywhere in Donkey Kong games.
Yeah, because Nintendo is generally viewed as a very uptight group of hard asses. No fun allowed in the Nintendo clubhouse. It's all very buttoned up, not even business casual, just all business. But the truth of the matter is, the studios developing these games do have a lot of leeway to put their personal stamp on it. Sometimes, you can't get everything in, but I'm glad you brought up the Rare logo and the Nintendo logo in Rare games that they developed for Nintendo. They would just spam it everywhere. It'd be everywhere. That's not typically a thing.
It's a required collectible in DK64.
Yeah, and it's not typically a thing Nintendo likes doing, that kind of blatant self-promotion within their own games. In fact, in Donkey Kong Bonanza, you can see this in action, where Funky Kong's surfboard from the original Donkey Kong Country that's hanging, it's mounted in Donkey Kong's treehouse, and you can actually grab it and surf with it, because DK Island is a fucking phenomenal playground, and that's why I drafted it in the DKU draft. But they changed one thing about it, because the original surfboard said Surf Nintendo on it, and they changed it to Surf DK Island because Nintendo frowns upon such blatant self-fellatio. But they allowed Rare to do it, and they allowed Namco to use their special flags, or S flags, in this game.
In particular, it's kind of refreshing to look back on, because there's kind of been this current climate observed with Nintendo where in recent years they've really taken pains to obscure which team or studio is making one of their games right up until people are able to play it in hand and watch the credits.
Yeah.
Like to break my rule, we don't know who's really making the new Star Fox. We know Koizumi's involved. We don't know which team he's heading up.
Yeah. Well, even, again, and I keep bringing it up, and I'm sorry, this is me, I'm not breaking my rule, because my rule is to mention this as much as I can, Donkey Kong Bonanza. We knew it was being developed internally, Nintendo EPD, but Nintendo didn't make that public until, like, a week or two before release. So, yeah, it is something they do shy away from. They want Nintendo to be the selling point. They don't want people to be thinking in terms of which internal team did this, which studio outside of Nintendo that works with them is doing this.
I remember these conversations about games like Super Princess Peach, the new Yoshi game a lot of people are eyeing, and I think also part of it is sometimes people online have perceptions, whether earned or not, about a specific studio's output and make assumptions based on who is making what game.
Yeah.
And I think they want to avoid that as well.
It would be like us back in the late 90s or early aughts talking about the Barnes at Rare. It's like, ooh, this is going to be the Banjo team. Or, it's very inside baseball, and as fans of not just the games, but the creators involved, of course we're going to be invested in that. We want them to get their flowers. We want to sing their praises. But Nintendo doesn't want to have people view these games in those terms because they don't want any asterisk up there like, oh, this is developed by a team. I don't like the games they make. No, you want Nintendo to be this, like, all-encompassing, exciting brand, and you're going to get excited about each game that comes out because it's Nintendo.
Right. And as for how the special flags are implemented in the game, for one, I like that they have kind of adapted the aesthetic of the special flag to Star Fox Assault's style. They've kind of, like, technoed them up. They're not just one-to-one arcade sprites floating around the Star Fox universe.
Right.
I will say, I'm generally a person who, at least nowadays, if there is a hidden collectible in a game or some kind of side quest, I will generally, unless they have a lot of missable content and you have to do things a certain way, try to figure things out on my own without using a guide unless I get absolutely stuck. I felt no guilt looking up a guide to find out where a lot of these special flags were because, I said, a lot of them are super, super mean. I think all of the ones in the all range levels are, in fact, completely invisible until you shoot them.
Yeah.
Because your homing, like, lock-on will lock on to seemingly thin air sometimes, and that will just be where a flag is hidden. And as I said, these are humongous arenas. If you are trying to find these on your own, these invisible flags, you are going to be combing for hours and hours.
Yeah, it's something I did not feel bad looking up either. It's like, at the end of the day, I was like, I want to 100% complete this game. Do everything. And so, yeah, like, I cheated.
That said, I appreciate that they were not so mean as to require you to collect all 5 in a single run of the level.
Yeah. It is, again, the freedom of going back in this game is greatly appreciated, given how dense it is with objectives and trying to, get the best run, get the most points, get those medals. There's just a lot to consider, and there's a lot to worry about, and so it takes some of that pressure off.
So, leaving the special flags behind, I'll go
Sorry,
to...
I had to talk about the special. I like a hidden collectible.
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you did, because I would have felt so bad if I omitted talking about them. The multiplayer.
Yes.
So yeah, as established, this is where the game design started. And yeah, this is very, very fun multiplayer.
Would you say this is the best Star Fox multiplayer?
Of what I've played, yes, hands down.
Okay.
Not even close.
Because I would agree, but honestly, it's not really much of a competition with the 3 Star Fox games I know the most about. So,
I mean, there's not even really a whole ton of them that have had multiplayer modes. I mean, again, this was a response to Star Fox 64's multiplayer mode being a little underbaked.
Yeah.
And even in terms of DKU games, I think outside of, your Smashes and Mario Karts, this is one of the most fun DKU multiplayer avenues. It reminds me a lot of the same brand of fun I have with Conqueror's multiplayer.
Yeah.
On the N64. The mechanics, the character movement, and the voice acting all lead to a lot of very funny, less M-rated deaths. Just things like, say, finding someone on foot, getting in a Landmaster, and hovering over them and dropping on them like an anvil on a Looney Tune is very funny. The multiplayer also has some nice Star Fox nods that didn't make it into the single player, because Titania and Zone S, both levels that don't appear in the story campaign, are multiplayer arenas that are unlockable.
It's a nice throw. It's one of those things where if Saria didn't play such a role in the game where it did, I would have been like, where's my Dinosaur Planet multiplayer stage? You got to get that in there. Like, why can't I be in Thorntail Hollow? Why can't I be in Snowhorn Waste? So, yeah, it is cool that they were able to throw in things from Star Fox 64 that were not used elsewhere in Assault.
There's even a really cool implied continuity in the Zone S map, in that unlike it appeared in Star Fox 64, the water in Zone S is deep blue.
Oh yeah, cleaning it up a little bit after the pollution of Andross.
Yeah,
and,
Zone S was not naturally a disgusting gunk-filled planet. Andross absolutely decimated it, and it seems like in the 9+ years since that happened, they've really done environmental restoration efforts that have paid off.
See, folks, this is why it's important to fund the EPA. Okay, it just doesn't happen naturally. When humans or other life forms who pollute are around, you gotta make the effort to clean it up.
The one unfortunate criticism I have of the multiplayer is that it makes the mistake that I feel a lot of games with heavy multiplayer components do. It not only locks a lot of its functionality behind single-player achievements, but also buries them behind matches played milestones.
Yeah,
And
I hate this sort of thing, really.
It's the problem again of I just want to be able to casually drop in and play this with my friends.
Yeah.
And especially in the GameCube era, I'm not always going to find 4 people who want to sit down with Assault. If I have, like, invested all this time to unlock things, then I'm just going to be the person who is probably more well-equipped to handle these mechanics.
I mean, I do understand the thought process behind it. We want people to keep playing the game. We want to keep them invested. We want to keep them grinding. It's very much the kind of mentality you see, much to the detriment of the industry today, in games that, you know, are like all about, you know, just the gouging, both monetarily and of your time. But yeah, I've never liked this sort of thing. Like, I feel like the full suite of a multiplayer mode should basically be available to you from the start. Maybe you can have 1 or 2 unlockable things as a perk, as a treat, but like, there are some things unlockable here that you're like, really? That's the thing that you're hiding?
At the very least, like, set the threshold low enough that, like, a couple nights of casual matches will get them.
Yeah.
Like, are you really going to play 260 legitimate matches to unlock Simple Map 5?
Hey, Simple Map 5 is my favorite location in the Star Fox series, all right? Not really. I don't even remember it. Oh, we're at the end.
Yeah.
How are we gonna?
We're at our dividing point for these episodes.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we have gone about 3.5 hours on this, thereabouts, a little bit under maybe, but we've still got the whole game to talk about. You know, we could keep going. We could do the full-on Planet Core style episode and go until dawn talking about Star Fox Assault. But I think we've got to follow the traditional Spotlight formula of doing multiple parts. And so I feel like part 2 will have to be us talking about the actual story, the linear progression, some of the fun characters who pop up along the way. I mean, Cameron, my God, we haven't even talked about Beltino. We haven't even talked about Pigma or the new member of Starwolf. We haven't even talked about Starwolf. We haven't talked about Tricky. The whole reason we're here, the whole reason TK Vine is talking about Star Fox in 2026. So you know what? We're going to save that, so we're going to rest. We're not going to play 260 matches so we can unlock Special Arena 5?
Simple Map 5.
Simple Map. Oh man, I put too much flourish on it. No, it's more boring.
Unlike the original Star Fox 64, we do not have to complete this in one sitting.
So unless I get shot down, there's no alternate route except maybe the draft results episode in between. We'll see how the schedule shakes out. But tune in next time, or the time after that, for part 2 of Star Fox Assault.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.